This is Lee Smith. We're here in Brooklyn, New York at Mona Lisa Studios. This is the Mission Statement Podcast, Episode 8, and I'm here with my man, Jahmal Williams. Thank you for coming through, bro.
Thanks for having me.
We're going to chop it up, man.
Yes, yes.
Let's kind of start at the beginning. So let's talk about like growing up, like what part of Boston did you grow up in?
I grew up in a section known as Jamaica Plain. Boston's broken up into these different subsections of the city that make up the whole. And this particular part is Jamaica Plain. But I grew up in all different sections. My mom moved us around a lot. So grew up in JP from the 74 to like 1980. Then I moved to a section called Dorchester, which was an awesome neighborhood. Lived there for like 5-6 years. Then I moved to a section called Grove Hall, which was pretty gnarly. Definite like change of scenery. Then we moved to another section that's further across town called, it's kind of like borderline of Mattapan, Dorchester. And then ended up moving towards the, I'd say like early 90s to 2000 to the south end of Boston, which is like right kind of like downtown. Okay. Which was like sick, because that's when I was street skating a lot, and basically the city was my backyard. I actually lived maybe 4 blocks from Boston City Hospital, which is the brick volcano spot.
Why were you moving so much? Like, like what was your home life like? What was it?
Well, the first major move, in JP, it's the projects. And we had a home invasion, which was pretty gnarly. And after that, I was like, we're moving out the projects. Okay. So that was the first move. And then in Dorchester, we moved because the landlord sold the building. Okay. And basically, we had to bounce. And then we lived with my grandmother at the time, which she lived in Grove Hall. And that area was pretty gnarly. Like, it was like, that's when I was kind of like borderline entering gang life and so forth. And then after that chapter, we moved to Greenock Street, which was further back in Dorchester, which was pretty dope because it was a little bit more mellower. And that's when skating kicked in for me. So it was like, I believe she was moving just to...
Your mother?
Yeah, my mom.
Okay.
I was raised by my mom.
Did she see you kind of getting involved in things that she didn't want you to get involved in? And that's maybe why she kind of like kept you moving a bit?
Yeah, I believe so. I got 4 older brothers and a sister. And I think she was just trying to do what she could to like provide and do the best she could for us. So I think instinctually she was making those moves to try to like better our situation. Yeah. You know, and for us.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are your brothers and sisters into? Any of them like skate or?
No, I'm the youngest out of everyone. So no, my oldest brother was most of them were like sports, basketball, and a couple of them chose the street life for a little while. And my one brother Michael, he probably should have went on to play college basketball, and I think he had a scholarship at one point to play for University of Rhode Island. And he took another path, and that was that. But yeah, I was kind of like the oddball, the black sheep in the family.
So before skating, I heard you were into like breakdancing at some point in time too.
Yeah.
That's cool. How deep into that were you? Like?
Well, the thing was like early '80s. This was in Dorchester. After we moved out the projects, it was like, it wasn't called hip hop at the time. It was more like these things that people were doing, like the way they would dress, and it was kind of centered around the music and dance. So it was like a culture, but I don't think we called it hip hop at the time. And then one summer I went to school, and the summer passed, and school was starting up again. I was in elementary school. I think I was in 2nd or 3rd grade. And we came back to school, and the school had burners everywhere, like all this graffiti, and we were like, what is this, you know? Oh, yeah. And we were mesmerized by it. And the next thing you know, it was like people were talking about the dance and stuff, and then like you started seeing crews and you know, it was like the thing of the streets for like the youth culture and the poor kids in the different neighborhoods, and they would battle. And my oldest sister, actually, she put me on to breakdancing because she was older and she knew like the different dances, and she was a part of, you know, she was in the scene more. And I think one of her girlfriend's brother was a dancer, and then he took me under his wing and he was teaching me like the footsteps and like down rocking and top rocking and stuff. And
so what is this, like 86 or something?
No, this was like probably like 81 to 83.
Oh shit.
But it was weird because people were tagged. Like my sister used to write, my brother used to write, and like it was just like the thing that people did.
Yeah.
You know, it's like they had like the style, the gear. You know, my brother would iron out his shoelaces and stuff and make the fat laces in his shoe tight.
I remember that, yeah, the fat laces.
Yeah, it was like basketball, music, graffiti, hip hop, but it wasn't hip hop at the time.
Was the scene up there being influenced by what like was going on down here in New York?
Yeah, it all came from New York. That's where it was like, like mixtapes. Like everyone would be like, "Yo, this is the new style from New York" and stuff. Like, yeah, everything was coming from New York.
So from there, how do you like go from like dipping and dabbling, maybe getting into trouble, breakdancing, and how do you get into skating?
Well, there's a lot of ground to cover there, but for me, it was like, we called it break-in at the time, but I was doing like, all of our friends, we were all like ghetto gymnasts. Like we were always doing like crazy stuff. So it was like b-boying, and then some kids started writing, and next, you know, I was writing too, and then I was hanging out with graffiti writers that were getting into stuff, and I was kind of young at the time. I was probably like the youngest one in the crew, but it started escalating because in graph, like you would have to rack paint, so dudes would go steal lots of paint and running through tunnels and stuff like that, and it seemed like it kept getting gnarlier and gnarlier, like, you know, and I couldn't hang, so I kind of like chilled on that. But at the same time, the kids that I was growing up with, we were into bikes, like BMXing and stuff, and we had a little thing going on in our community. So from there, when we moved out of that neighborhood, I moved into the section called Grove Hall. And b-boying and breaking was still in. Graffiti was still going pretty strong. Like my cousin, he was a writer too, so he was getting up, and a bunch of his friends. This was around like 85. And I was BMXing at the time. And it just always stuck with me. We were always into bikes, but I never had like a fresh bike or anything. And I was at a crossroads where like my cousin that I was hanging out with, he started getting into the gang stuff. And he started bringing me around, and crack cocaine came on the scene.
Shit,
and that shit fucking, it destroyed, like we didn't know at the time what was going on, but it started, like dudes were making money and stuff, but it just was, all this other stuff came along with it. So I was seeing that stuff, and so I started getting into the gang life a little bit, but not too heavy. Like, I wasn't doing gnarly stuff, but I was seeing it, and I would see the 9mm.
It's a slippery slope, you know. Once you start hanging around,
guilty by association.
Yeah, you end up in a situation that you can't maybe get yourself out of. You know?
Yeah. And a crazy situation happened, which was a kind of a blessing in disguise. Unfortunately, like one night, these guys were going on a mission, and I wanted to go, and they were like, "No, you can't go." And one of the dudes started beating me up, and the other guy's like, "Nah, chill, let him hang." And so, went on a mission. A couple days later, I was coming home from school. I was in 6th grade.
So you went?
I went, yeah.
Okay.
It was ruckus. Just like pirates, just like young, angry kids, teenagers, broken families, the whole nine.
Sometimes those end up in situations that ruin your whole life.
Basically, pretty much. Coming home from school, I see some of the dudes crying, some of the fellas. Get to the corner, I see the police getting out the cars with guns, looking at rooftops, bulletproof vest, and the dude that was beating me up the few nights before was laying on the ground with a bullet. I guess he must have got shot in the face, in the eye, blew his head out, and he's on the ground, he's just dying. I'm like, wait, what? And I'm looking, and I see, and there's like little kids around. I'm just looking like, whoa, because there was nothing you could do. So, and the cops weren't trying to like save his life. I was just like, wow, he was still alive. And I was like, wow, there's nothing no one can do. He's transitioning. And so I went home, told my cousin, and after that I was like, nah, the gang life definitely isn't for me. I was like, I want to have fun. So
that was like a retaliation from what you guys did the other night, maybe, you think? Or,
no one, like, there was rumors saying that, like, he was making too much money or something. Like, it was all sorts of, like, I don't remember what had happened, like, why it had happened, but he was a gnarly kid, you know, and, but seeing that, I knew that that wasn't the life that I wanted to go down, you know, or the path that I wanted to go down.
I mean, that's heavy, bro. That'll definitely, I mean, yeah, that would change.
Yeah.
Change your
life changing, for sure.
For sure.
And so I stayed that was in Grove Hall, and my grandmother lived like 2 blocks over from that street. Actually, Gangstar and The Moment of Truth, I think it is, he mentions this neighborhood because he's from that same neighborhood. So I just basically stayed in my grandmother's yard, and 2 of my best friends that I grew up with in Dorchester, when I first moved to Dorchester, their moms she was a beautiful lady, and my friend John showed up and his mother, and they gave me his GT Pro Performer. And I don't know if she realized that, like, we got to make sure, they called me Poonie. That was my nickname. And so I think she might have been like, we got to make sure he stays, like out of trouble, you know? So John gave me his bike. I stayed in the backyard freestyling and trying to learn tricks on his bike and stuff. And and from there I kept BMXing. My mom's found an apartment. We moved to a different neighborhood. And this neighborhood was definitely better for me, at least. There was like the Franklin Field projects on one end, and then it was like the Franklin Hill projects on another side. And I was kind of familiar with the territories from the gang stuff, so I was like, oh, I can't go there, I can't go there. Like, I'm gonna stick to my block. And I just stayed on my block freestyling. And there was a half pipe at this roller skating rink. It was like a public swimming pool roller skating rink, and it had a half pipe there, and guys would come down and ride. And one day I told my friend Todd, I was like, yo, we should go check out the ramps, and we're gonna bring our bikes. And we knew it could be sketchy, and that's when I got my bike stolen. And
they jacked it from you, like, give me your bike, or you set it down and then it was gone, or like, how did it?
I told the story before on a Ride Channel thing before, but I'll tell it again.
Yeah.
So we go to the rink, we're riding, and I see 2 silhouettes of heads peeking up behind the banister. And I'm like, yo, Ty, we gotta go. So we're trying to pedal away, and we're riding through a field, and the grass is like 3 feet high. So the grass was getting caught in the cranks and in the wheels, so we couldn't go nowhere. So I was like, Ty, you go. I'll take the heat. So one dude approached me, he's like, kick it in. And I was like, nope. And I had a knife in my pocket that my brother had gave me to protect myself. So he's like, kick it in. And then I seen a flash of like blood, and I was like, either he's gonna die or I'm gonna die, because like one of us are gonna get stabbed to death. It was like instantly, and I was like, don't pull out the knife. And so I was like, here. I gave him the bike, and then I was like, in my head, I was like, I'll make another one, you know, because I was into building bikes, and I was into the BMX culture, so I was like, I'll get another bike. So he got that, and I recognized his face. I was like, oh, that's that dude, because he had a reputation. So I was like, I'm glad I didn't try to like cross him, you know?
Yeah,
just
for
like,
sure.
yeah. So from there, I was like, and I was into BMX, and some of the BMX mags would have skate stuff in it. So I was like, oh, I I'm gonna get a board. I was like, no one's gonna try to jack me for a skateboard.
That's fucking super interesting, man. It's like a crazy way to think. Like, okay, let me try this because people don't want this. And it's true though, because people didn't want a bike. They didn't want a skateboard as much as they wanted a bike.
Yeah, bikes were hot commodities.
So where did you get the board from then?
I saved up. I went to Chinatown, bought a bunch of fireworks, came back to my neighborhood, sold them, and went to Bradley's and bought this Veriflex board. Had Bruce Lee on the bottom. And it didn't roll, but I was like, I got one.
I remember that.
I was like, I got a board, and then I found some roller skates, and I realized that the bearings were better, so I switched the wheels out. And I lived on a hill, so I just butt boarded down a hill every day. It was so much fun. And it led out to like the main street that went like north and south, and it was major traffic. So like if you messed up, you could go out into the street and get hit, but I was butt boarding, and people were like, you're crazy, you're gonna kill yourself. But I was having so much fun. And I fell in love with it, man. So awesome.
Yeah, I used to live in Oakland when I was a kid too, and I used to butt board down the hills too.
Yeah,
so like
speed.
Exactly.
That's great.
Just going back a little bit, so was your b-boy name and like your tag was Pooney, or that was just like a family nickname?
It was a family nickname.
Oh, okay. You had like a tag name or like?
Yeah, I don't want to say
it. Come on, bro.
The graffiti task force might. No. I use the same. I use the same name. I changed the spelling a bit. I had a few names, but.
Okay, you know what I'm saying. I used to be Puma.
Oh yeah. I had Pony. And then there was another kid called Pony Kid, and and his brother wrote Puma Kid. Oh, okay. And then they were flexing on me because they thought I was, and I'm like, nah, that's my real name. Like that's not my, you know. And they got up way more than I did, so I didn't.
Yeah, that was the thing. If somebody had a name that sounded like yours, then you had like automatic beef.
Yeah. Especially if you wasn't putting it down, if you wasn't getting up, then like how could you claim the name? You know?
Exactly.
And like they were hitting spots way more than I was a toy always. Yeah. So I wasn't stressing.
I was gonna say also, you know who used to be in a b-boy crew was Kenny Anderson.
Yeah. Skittles.
Yep, that's right. Yeah, every once in a while he'll like throw a windmill out there or like bust some shit. I lived here in Queens at the time. I used to try to do my little like pop lock and shit, but I was always whack. So.
Yeah, dancing's dope.
Yeah, it
helps keep you loose and flowing.
For sure. So you start skating and like basically you just fall in love with it, like.
Yeah, I was always a crazy kid. Like I love being outside and climbing and doing flips off stuff. And when the BMX aspect kicked in, it was, you had to figure out the tricks and stuff, so the whole trick aspect was, the creativity part of it was appealing, and then same with skating, but I didn't know how it worked, I didn't know how to do tricks. I just was like butt boarding, but I just stayed with it, like I kept it around, I kept riding, and then I seen, it was, my friend somehow gave me a video, and it was Police Academy when Lance and all those guys were skating around, and like the sparks, when they hit the curb and the sparks were going off. It was Police Academy, I think it was 3 or something.
Was OJ in that one, maybe?
I can't remember, but it was just the skate section my friend had on video, and he showed me, and I was like, oh, I was like, and they were doing street ramps, airs, so that was pretty sick. And then my friend worked at a video store, and I ended up getting this video called Curb Dogs, and Dave Vanderspeck, he BMX freestyle and he skated too. Okay. And it was EMB. Oh yeah. Before it was EMB. Oh really? He was skating the plaza. I didn't know at the time, but it was Kurt, and he was around Golden Gate Park, and so like it was showing this culture that I was like, oh snap, and I was like, that's what I had seen. in between, I had seen bits of skating all throughout my life, but never like really grabbed onto it. Like I remember in the 70s, I was going to the movies with my sister in downtown Boston, and I remember seeing a quarter pipe. It had to be like 79. And these guys were going up at kick turning, and there was a guy on roller skates, and I was always blown away that the board, whatever they were going up, it didn't tip over. And I was like, how? Like what? You know, I didn't understand the G forces, and I was probably like 4 or 5. So I'd always seen like skating around bits and pieces, but summer of 1988 is when I fell in love with it, and I was like, I want this. And then I started doing it more and more, and then my mother bought me a Thrasher magazine.
Okay.
It's Tony Alva on the cover.
In the pool?
He was bombing a hill or a ditch. And he's like tucked down, it's like red and black, and he's like, I think it might have been an anniversary issue or a photo annual.
So the family was supporting
My mom's, yeah.
the skate, like your interest in skateboarding.
Yeah, she was super supportive. Got me that Thrasher because she worked in the city, and she would bring, I think she brought like skate mag, a couple BMX mags at one point. And yeah, because she got me Club Homeboy magazine, and it had skating and BMX. And so she got me Thrasher, and I was just like, this is awesome.
And you completely forgot about BMX. You were like,
I did both.
You still did a little bit of
I still
that?
did both, but skating was new and different, and I wanted to figure out how do you ollie. Like I didn't know what an ollie was. I was like, I want to figure out how to do this stuff.
Did you ever get the pushback of like from other people in your neighborhood, like black people shouldn't skateboard, or like?
Oh, yeah, all the time.
Yeah?
All the time.
How was that? How did you deal with that?
Like, I guess I kind of liked it too because I was being defiant. Like I was like, nah, I'm doing what I want, you know?
Yeah.
And because I could have been defiant doing other stuff too, you know, like crime or gang stuff, you know? But it was like, you're gonna break your neck, you're gonna kill yourself, you're wasting your time, that's a white boy sport, like, what are you doing, you think you're white, like all sorts of stuff. Like I wasn't cool no more, like sneakers are ripped up, like I'm doing this odd thing that I shouldn't be doing because I should be playing Little League football, or I should be on a basketball team, or I should be on a corner hustling with the other guys, you know, and like,
it was such a weird concept at that point in time.
Yeah, 1988, like I said, crack cocaine hit, and the gang stuff was bubbling really hard, and like, you know, the music was changing, and perceptions of what like young black males should be doing was definitely not skateboarding. Not in my neighborhood, at least. Yeah.
But it also seems like in Boston, there's like a huge jock culture. So, I mean, it must be.
Oh yeah, it's a sports city for sure.
Is it?
Yeah, big time.
But so at this point in time, like jocks were always against skaters.
But in my hood, it was I didn't know, there was no concepts of jocks. Like,
were you going, so you, in this point in time, you were just sticking to your like
Yeah, I was
area.
just in the hood. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so when I started going to the city, and I would see some of the skaters getting jumped and stuff, and it was more like, I didn't see that whole jock mentality like that, not until I started meeting other skaters and then going to like the suburbs and skating at different contests and meeting other skaters, and then they would tell me about their experiences, you know, like, oh, they were, you know, the jocks, and I was like, what do they mean by that? And I was like, because in a hood, like if you're into sports, like you're the man, like if you can play ball good, like you're, like all my brothers played ball really good, and they were like the most popular kids, but it was just different in the hood, I think.
Were you the only kid in your neighborhood that did you influence anybody else to start skating?
Yeah, I had a little crew.
Yeah.
And then they didn't hang on to it too long, but then I met this kid, Big. They called him Big Mike. He was huge, like pretty big for his size. I mean, pretty big for his age at the time. And he skated. And then there was this other kid, Bim, and he skated. They lived in Mattapan and I think Hyde Park maybe. And so we started linking up, and we'd go into the city. No, actually, I met them and we started skating, but we didn't go into the city. And then I met, it was this guy, Bill. Bill, I think his name was Jorowish. It was this dude, he used to deliver pharmaceuticals to the elderly. And at this time, on my street next door from my house, you know, it was kind of whatever neighborhood. So I built ramps everywhere. I had quarter pipes built up I had like a 12-foot half pipe built up on an abandoned building. No one said anything. Like I could run it, you know. So I had ramps everywhere. And then so the street was kind of like a little skate park. And he drove down delivering pharmaceuticals, and he grabbed his board out of his car and he started hitting the ramps. And he's like, "This is crazy. Like, did you build this?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he had like that haircut with the blonde hair and the bangs in the front, looked like Tony Hawk. And he was like the first outside skater I met. And then he introduced me to a bunch of other skaters. And then he brought me to like the Seabolt, like the Cambridge pool, like in summer of '88.
So that meeting was very influential into like your progression.
Yeah, because I realized skateboarding is a passport. Mm-hmm. I could go to other areas and, you know, oh, there's these banks behind this building in Rosendale. Mm. What's Rosendale? I've never been to Rosendale. Mm. Oh, it's this town over there. Like, all right, I want to skate the bank, so I got to figure out how to get there. And this skater across town, this dude Ian, he knows how to get there. So, like, you know, it just, you know, you knew like when you seen someone ripped up shoes, like a code.
Yeah,
you know,
like,
oh, you skate, and then you make friends and you exchange numbers. So it's all like, I can't think linearly, so I'm gonna be scattered all over the place.
It's all good.
But yeah, at that time I realized skateboarding is a passport, and I could go to all these neighborhoods, and I had a purpose to go there, and I was meeting other kids and other people that were super rad and good, and yeah, it just got deeper and deeper into it.
And then how does that go? Copley was kind of like you guys' spot, right?
Yeah, I didn't make it to Copley until a few years later.
Okay. How did you eventually like start going down there and like becoming, was that like your EMB, like you guys would go every day, skate every day there, or like how, that was the hangout?
Well, my mother moved to the South End. City in downtown Boston is my backyard.
Okay.
So I had to go to a high school that was zoned for that area. The high school's right downtown, like right in the middle of the city. I was stoked because I didn't have to go to high school in the hood, which I was shook. Like I knew all the schools where all the different gangs went to, and I was like, damn, I don't want to go to that school. You know, just because kids were getting jumped, and so she moved to the south. My mother moved us to the South End. The school's in downtown Boston. Next thing you know, the skate shop's 5 minutes away from the high school. So
What shop is that?
Beacon Hill Skate Shop.
Okay.
So every day I'm hitting the skate shop and I'm bugging the dudes, like asking mad questions, like, hey, how much is this? What is this?
How old are you, like 16?
I was in the 9th grade, yeah. So I went there every day, and then like, you know, the locals, that's where like, it was Robbie and Jimmy, Sean Waters, Scott McIntosh, the Nava crew. That's where all the locals went to. And every day I would just sit there and watch these guys rip, and like I had my school gear, and I was like, oh, I gotta bring my board one day and try to skate. But I would just watch them skate all the time and then go home and try to imitate what I seen those guys.
So you would come
doing.
from school, chill out, just check it out, and then you're like, okay, this is where I am.
Yeah, I would just lurk at the skate shop all day until they got, you know, annoyed or whatever.
They were like, get it.
But they were real cool. Yeah. Thank goodness. Dan Estabrook.
So one day, you finally brought your board to school, and then you just skated after school, and then you were just hooked from there, or how did it go?
I started meeting different guys, and I started skating with the locals, and then like, you know, you knew who the crews were, and like eventually I can't remember who it was, but eventually because I didn't know the territory really downtown. I didn't know like where the spots were in the city. And so after, you know, you make friends with, you know, the skate shop to me was like the Jedi temple. Like you went there, the Shackle Me Not came out, boom. It's like, so I'm getting all this information, and I'm seriously in love with skateboarding at the time. So I'm just eating it all up. And so making friends with different skaters. Oh, let's meet up after school and let's go skate. And then went to Copley, and Copley at the time, it wasn't like a heavy scene for skating, but it was a scene for like, I feel like the underground youth in general. Like you had death metal kids, you had goth kids, you had riders, you had bike messengers, and like all the like subcultures would just congregate down there. So skaters were naturally in that mix too. And everyone would hang out on the public library stairs, and they were like graffiti everywhere. It was sick. People drinking 40s and so forth, and just like kids hanging out all day, all night. And then I feel like more towards like 91, 92, I felt like the skate scene started to solidify a bit more around, centralize more around like skating the plaza, like the ledges, up and down. Like people were always skating it. And I think before there was a whole different plaza that got torn down. It was like the original Copley. I never skated that. But the second version of Copley Square that I know, that's when people were like, it became more of like the hangout spot for skaters. And
that's the one where you did like heel flip tail slide and all that.
Yeah.
That. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never made it there. I never made it to Copley.
It was fun, man.
Is it still there now?
Yeah, it's still there.
Can you skate it or what?
Yeah, the marble's chunked up pretty bad, it's skate proof, but it's a water fountain too, so wintertime the fountain gets empty, you can skate in the inside. It's pretty. People skate there all the time.
So at this point in time, back in the days, were you hanging out at night, like getting caught up in like drinking 40s and hanging out, or were you just coming and skating and then like going back to your hood, or how did that go?
I was, like once again, I'm jumping around. Like I see it all in my head, but I can't express it all verbally.
For sure.
I'm skate nerding out at this time. Like that's all I wanted to do. Like I didn't have to do the trip from the hood all the way into the city and then all the way back to the hood. Like it's my backyard. So I was skating. I was hitting everything and skating all night, and that's all I wanted.
In a sense, I could imagine that probably you saw it maybe as like a blessing. That thing that you discovered, this thing that took you out of, what you were supposed to be doing in a stereotypical sense,
Yeah, big time.
Or like, an environment that maybe was not the best for you. This thing opened a lot of doors and
opened my head.
Open your mind. You start meeting new people and experiencing new music, new cultures, and then from what I'm getting is that you were like, okay, I'm just gonna do this, and do it 110, like.
Yeah, that. To add some more to what you just said, coming from a broken home, and there's like everything ain't all good at home, So it's like, here's my escape. So I'm skating, nothing else matters. Like I'm in the moment, like that's what I want to do, that's what I'm focused on. I go back home, things come up, so forth and so on. You deal with, whatever situations are there, and but it was my escape. It was a blessing for sure, and I could channel my anger into it because I was an angry kid for a while too. So I could focus on that, the creativity. Then I had the connectivity of this new community of people, and then I didn't live in a hood no more, so it was like a whole new like freedom for me. Like I wasn't looking over my shoulders no more and stuff like that. So yeah, it was a complete blessing, big time.
So your mom had made a conscious effort to take you out of that environment?
Yes, I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
My mom did the same thing too. Yeah, she grew up in Detroit, so she always like made. She was always like, I don't want to live in the environment that I grew up in.
Mothers. You gotta.
It was rough though, because I relate to your story because I moved around all the time. It was like, I lived in Queens, and then I lived in Oakland, and I lived in San Francisco. And essentially, at the time, you don't know what's going on, but it's your mother trying to find where you guys can fit in. And where
look out for your babies.
That's crazy, man. So so you're skating, you're fully into it, and then like, when do you start getting sponsored, or like, how did that come into play?
I got a job at the skate shop.
The same one? What was it, Beacon Hill?
Beacon Hill Skate Shop. The high school had a work study program, and you know they teach you word processing, all this stuff to set you up for like a work career situation. And I got along really well with the guy who owned the skate shop, Chris Kinchler. He took me under his wing, and he gave me a job. It was my first job, my first real kind of official job.
How old are you, like 17, 18?
10th grade.
Okay.
So I'm working there, doing sales. He's sharpening my skills up. You know, It was a skate shop. They sold hockey skates and ice skates and rollerblades, all sorts of hockey sticks. He was a lacrosse ref, a hockey ref, and he was He was into roller skating from the '70s, and so he was selling all this equipment. So he was teaching me how to, you know, like guys would come in to get their hockey skates sharpened, and I'd have to put like a defenseman's edge on it, and they're like, "Who's this kid's gonna sharpen my skates?" So I had like, you know, I had to be like diverse, and I was digging it, and then. Companies would call, "Hey, this is such and such. This is Kendra from World," or I think Foundation. Just like people would call doing sales, and I was talking to different people, like, oh, you know, different companies hit me up or hitting up the skate shop for sales, and then I was telling the guy Chris, like, this is what's hot, this is what's popular, like, you know, like you should order these boards.
So you were kind of doing the buying, even though you weren't like technically the buyer.
Yeah, he controlled all the buying, but he'd like, you know, he hit me, you know,
Tell
he
me what's
knew,
cool,
we were always stocked with like Santa Cruz. Santa Cruz was dope, and Powell, not dope, but they were always rad, rad companies. And so I would tell him what we were thinking as what was rad, like the young kids, and he did it. And then I ended up getting hooked up by Molotov. Actually, Spitfire and Thunder was first. A fellow by the name of Dan Zimmer hit Shrugi up.
Big Shrugi. Shout out to Shrugi.
Yeah.
Love Shrugi.
And Shrugi blessed me with Spitfire and Thunder, so I'm getting those boxes. I'm stoked. And then I got put on Molotov skateboards out of Minneapolis.
That's crazy. I don't really remember too much about Molotov. It rings a bell, but
yeah,
like
they were rad. They were cool.
How long were you doing that for?
It's hard to tell because my perception of that time period, but it was rad. Like getting those boards and art was really cool. And the two brothers that ran the company, Andy Shangsberg and Matthew Skonsberg, they were artists and like into music and jazz and hip hop. Like Andy he'd write me letters all the time, and he would talk about like Coltrane, and they were both really ahead of their time when it comes to art and culture, and they were from the Midwest. So I'm this kid, you know, from the hood, not really open on like a lot of like say like art and jazz and stuff like that, but they were putting me on to different ideas and writing me letters and getting me stoked on art and stuff. It was awesome.
That's interesting because it seems like that's kind of like the same experience. I know that you rode for TV. That's what I always thought was your first sponsor. But it seems like you kind of linked up with like at Templeton and them, and kind of it was another person who was kind of into that same kind of like being creative and artistic.
Yeah, big influences. Yeah. That's what's so awesome about skating. It's the personalities and the creative individuals that are in it, creating it. There's just rad individuals that it's just cool, you know.
How did you go from Molotov to TV?
Mike V and Sal Bobby are two first pros I ever met, came to Boston to do a demo. And they came to Beacon Hill Skate, and the locals got to skate with these guys, and we were psyched. And I got to see Mike V stand up to a security guard, and he won us all over. After that, we were all big fans of Mike V after that, because it was just badass just to see that. And Sal was ripping, and they left town, and then Mike was starting TV out with Ed, and they called the shop, and Mike was real cool with the Chris Kincher, the guy that owned the skate shop, because Mike V's into hockey and Chris is big into hockey. He's a hockey ref, so they got along really well. And they started talking, and somehow my name came up, and Chris was like, yo, Mike said send him a video. So I linked up with Jeremy Traub, who was the local photographer. He was awesome. And we went out, and he had a camera. So we went out and we filmed one night, went to his house, edited it up, and we sent it to Mike, and they put me down. Or Mike put me down.
That's dope.
And
so obviously Mike V's not a racist, because people try to say that he's racist.
you know, it's funny too.
People say that he's a racist.
Because he's gnarly, you know, like, I remember being on tour with him, and he, at the time, TV had a shirt that said human racist, and we're in the deep South, and we're in a heavily African-American community driving through, and we stopped to go to the supermarket, and he had that shirt on. It said human racist, and he's like skinhead, tats, and we were just walking around. I was like, damn, something pops off, I gotta get his bag, you know, like, but nah, he's you know what's gnarly too, is he told me stories about calling other heads out who
Calling racists, like skinheads out.
Yeah, all sorts of cats. Skate cats that had, like, you know, tats that Nazi representation symbols, and he would be like, yo, so that tat, and he was calling heads out, like, fuck that. Mike's not a racist.
Well, maybe he was like a sharp or something. That was like a skinhead against racist something.
No, Mike's just Mike, man.
Okay, I don't know. I'm just going with what I've heard over the years. So.
Yeah, I think now I was lucky enough to get to know him through those years, and
my only interaction with Mike V, we were at the Slam City Jam contest, and Joey Surreal.
Oh yeah.
Were you there for that? Joey Surreal was smoking a beadie, right? Remember those beadies, those Indian rolled cigarettes?
Yeah.
So Joey Surreal smoking a beadie, and Mike V comes up to him, and he's like, he thinks it's weed. So he's like, my kid's over here, or like, what the fuck are you doing? So like, he gets up in Joey's face, and I don't know what happened, but they almost fought over like a beadie, and Mike V thought it was weed, and I was just a little kid. I was like, whatever, like, I don't know.
He was, that's what I mean, like, back then he was definitely like gnarly, like he had hot-tempered, so he was quick to, he didn't hold his tongue. You know, that's how he got down.
Yeah. And who else wrote for the team? Was that like Ethan Fowler maybe was on the team? Or am I confused?
So Ed and Mike started TV. They put me down. I know Jerry was on the team, and I had heard about Ethan. And I wasn't familiar. I can't remember everyone. Yeah. But I know they came to Boston doing a demo, and I met up with them, and we did the demo out in this local town, and it was this dude. I think his name was Mike Caracas. He was with them. It was Jerry, Mike, and Ed, and then I called my mom and was like, Mom, can I go on tour with these dudes? Can I go? And she was like, yeah, sure. So I hopped in a van and went on tour with them. And I think Ethan might have got on later, because I heard how gnarly he was and stuff. And then I got to meet Ed more. I got to know Ed more through that tour and stuff.
How was it hanging out with Ed?
At first, like, you know, he was just Ed. You know, just like, I didn't understand him. You know, like at the time I was more into like tough guy stuff, because the street stuff that I was going through, and then Mike appealed to me more at that time, and I didn't really understand Ed, his personality and stuff, and who he was, and so he seemed kind of, you know, he was artist, quiet, kind of like he had his personality, but they were super rad, because they would talk to us about the food industry, politics, like social issues. They were listening to hardcore music, they were like constant. that's what was rad about those guys, because they were straight edge, and they would just tell us about stuff that
like vegan too, right?
Yeah.
For forever, like even before that, that's like a trend now.
Yeah.
They've been on that shit for a long
Like
time.
Ed would like, I'd have a package of M&M peanuts, and he would be like, let me see that, and he would just go off like, this is bad for you, and he's like, sugar's horrible for you. And I was like, what are you talking about? Sugar's bad for you. Dude, you don't understand, it's so bad for you. Yeah, those dudes are awesome.
Did you ride for Toy Machine?
Um,
Or like TV transitioned into Toy Machine or something?
Yeah, TV, Mike and Ed's, it turned into television.
Okay.
And at some point, Mike and Ed started butting heads. I think it had something to do with, because they were trying to get things rolling and stuff, and like finding wood shops, and they were in it. And I think at some point they might have been butting heads, because I think Rocco wanted to back it, and Mike had his history with Rocco, and it sounded exciting and so forth. And I think Mike was like, "No, I'm not doing it." And then I think I don't really know the story 100%, but I know it had something to do with that. Mm-hmm. And Ed was bummed, and eventually their relationship kind of they grew apart. And so when that happened, Mike kept doing television, and I thugged it out with him. Mm-hmm. Just he was running it on his own, and we were trying to build it. And actually, that's when I first went to SF, because he met me. I think I went out to his place and stayed, and then we drove up to SF. And I think Jamie Thomas wanted to get on, and we were trying to build a squad and stuff like that. And so we just went up to SF to skate, and we skated EMB and stuff. And we ended up putting Peter BC on. You
met him in SF, or you
actually,
knew him already from New York?
I knew Peter from New York.
Okay.
Or from a few trips I had made out here. Yeah.
Who did you see? How was your EMB experience when you
It was sick. I felt at home.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I was huge fans of everyone and everything about SF and the scene. And everything was coming out of SF. SF was a mecca, and these guys were they were flipping the script.
Yeah.
It was like, and
Henry and Javante.
Dude, it was so brilliant.
Carol,
it was awesome.
And everybody.
So I was nervous, of course, but when I got there, I felt at home, because I seen the diversity in the crew, and I was like, there's brothers, there's Asians, there's white kids. It was like, I just felt at home. Yeah. And then I know heads were into writing, and I was a street kid, so I felt comfortable in SF.
For sure. I think that's why we always got along well with like everybody that came from the East Coast, like from like New York and Philly. And I was like, I always say it, but it's kind of like two worlds that are living parallel lives, but then they come together and you're like, oh, you're just like us. I mean, I guess all kids do the same shit, maybe.
But I definitely didn't get like a pass, or like, like I was still like, oh, this is EMB, and
Yeah. Shit. So you stayed on TV for a while, and then if I'm correct, maybe you went to ADI after that?
No, it was so television folded, and then I was a sponsorless, but I worked at a skate shop, so I was always able to get product
in Boston.
In Boston, yeah.
Okay.
I'm still in Boston, and at the time, yeah, there's so many details.
For sure. I mean, it's super. It's hard to like capture all the whole timeline, but I mean, we'll try our best.
Let's see where TV folded. Ed hit me up and he's like, "Hey, I'm starting a company called Toy Machine, and he was like, you're already part of our family, so I feel like natural that you should, if you're not riding for anyone, we'd love to have you aboard." Mm-hmm. And I was stoked. I was like, sure. And it was done out of, I think Brad Dorfman was backing it, and yeah, it was awesome. And I had turned pro for television, so when I got on Toy Machine, I had hooked up the board graphics, and I was pro for Toy Machine.
Sick. Who was on the team at that time? It was like Kalis. Was he on the team, or was it?
It was Jerry, Ed, Ryan Fabry, I think. Yeah, I think Ryan Fabry might have.
From Plan B.
Yeah. Ethan, I could be wrong though. I've hit my head a lot over the years.
Ryan Fabry. I thought Sheffy punched him in the face and then his career was over.
Wait, did he write for television or toy?
Did you ever hear that story?
Yeah. I've heard.
Supposedly he banged Sheffy's wife and then Sheffy punched him in the face and then I don't know. skate.
Nah, those are just kind of like unspoken codes that you just can't.
Lines you can't cross, right?
You gotta learn somehow.
Shit. So how long were you on Toy Machine for then?
A grip.
Did you quit your job at the skate shop once your board came out?
Nah. I kept skating, worked there from time to time. Like if he needed, some extra help or me to do days, I was like, sure. I always had keys, so I could do that. That was fun. It was good. It's a good time.
It takes a special kind of skater to be like, let me keep this job and be a professional skater at the same time.
But I loved skating.
Yeah.
So, and like I said, the skate shop to me is like the Jedi Temple. So it's like I'm surrounded by it, like the gossip, the newest product, the magazines, like everything. So like I was in it. I loved it. So I didn't mind at all.
Yeah. How long did you end up working there for?
I worked there for years.
Yeah.
It was hard giving my keys in. Like it was like home for me. And like Chris Kinchler was like the guy who owned the shop. He was like almost like the dad I never had. Like taught me how to drive and take me out to the driving range and teach me how to putt and so forth. So I just had keys, and like that was like family to me. So I think at some point, like I got tired of being like, hey, can you come in and cover for such and such? And then finally I was like, you know what? As long as I have the keys, I'm gonna be there. And I can't remember what year, but eventually I gave the keys back. But I think it had to be around senior year and a little bit after. It was probably around senior year because I think I went on tour again with Toy Machine, and that was awesome. And it just wasn't around. Like things started rolling, and I was going out to California more often, and so I wasn't around.
So you're a pro skater. You work in a skate shop, and you're still in high school. You're getting good grades.
I don't know if I was getting good grades. I got by.
I mean, you were doing it though.
Yeah, I got by. Well, I had to finish school because my brothers they all kind of like just blew it. So I knew it was really important that I had to at least finish school, like
you owed it to your mom.
Yeah, definitely. I knew I had to get that diploma and I had to, but then my mom's hooked it up again. At the high school I was at, this kid, Roy, he had got stabbed and he bled to death in the hallway. And like I said, things were getting gnarly. Like the whole gang stuff just ruined so much of like being a teenager in
What
high
kind
school.
of gangs was it? Was it like neighborhood cliques or was it like colors?
Yeah, it was different streets.
Okay.
Different streets and different locations.
That's how it is in the Bay Area too.
And everyone it was like, and the thing about in Boston, all the different gangs had their sports uniforms. So like different crews had a team. Had like the Timberwolves and Georgetown, and like each gang claimed either a college team or an NBA team, like a sports jersey, and that's all they would wear. So you seen a bunch of dudes coming, they all had the same jerseys on. You're like, oh, gotta go. Like I'm getting off, I gotta go around back that way. And then Colors came out, and it was like throwing a spark in gasoline. It made things worse because it kind of glorified.
I've always heard that about
that movie. And like
crime rate went up crazy in the black community after that movie came out.
And I'm a big fan of Dennis Hopper, but I'm just like, dude, that movie caused like it just glorified the whole. Like there were gangs since the 70s, and like New York had gangs way back. The gangs been around, you know, your posses and stuff. But I just remember specifically, you had crack cocaine had hit, and it was hitting different neighborhoods, destroying them. Dudes were getting money, crime rate shot through the roof, and it just became lame because violence went up, people were dying. So anyways, Roy gets killed. He dies in a hallway. We got to go through metal detectors now, and my mother's like, "We're getting you out of there." So she put me into this one school in the South End, Cathedral High School, and it was a school my brother went to that he played basketball for the team and should have went on playing college basketball. I'm there in my last year, and one of the teachers see me drawing in a black book. You know, you call it your Bible, it's a black book, and you do all your letters and stuff. And she was like, "Oh my gosh, you did this?" And she was like, "I'm the head of the art department here." So she seen my drawings, and she gave me my own art period. Okay. So she was like, "You're gonna go to art school after this." And I was like, "I'm not going to college."
Did you want to go to art school?
Like, no, I was like, "I'm gonna go
She's
skating.
Like, you're gonna go to art school.
Once I graduate, I'm going to California and I'm gonna be skating."
You're already pro, right?
Yeah.
Are you getting a little bit of money from skating, or like?
Yeah, it was rad. You know, like it was cool.
You probably had no bills.
Yeah, I was living at home.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like, in my mind still, it wasn't like this was a career. I was like, I don't even, like, I didn't pay attention to it. I was just like, skate. Like, what tricks can I learn? Like, what's my setup like nowadays? You know. And she pushed me to apply for. 'Cause the reason why I got into this was because it was important for me to get a GED. But no one in my family had pursued a higher education out of high school. You know, like it was a big deal to finish high school. No one went to college, so the teacher at Cathedral High School was like, "Yo, you're talented. You gotta use this." So we tried to apply to a few schools. I got accepted, but we couldn't afford it. And like my mom and I, we tried, but she couldn't afford it. And then I just didn't. I was like, I'm I'm pro now. Like, let me try to make this work. So that's what I did.
So you didn't go?
No, I couldn't afford it. It was too expensive.
But eventually, in the long run, you went to college, right?
Oh yeah, I went back.
You did. It's funny because we just had Alexis Sablone on here, and we were making jokes. I was like, "You're one of the only skaters that has a degree," and now the next guest, you got a degree too.
Yeah.
When did you? I know we're jumping around a lot.
Yeah, it's all
You're
good.
in high school. You're skating. You're pro. This teacher approaches you, tries to get you into art school. You can't go at that time.
No.
So what happens between the time? What do you do in that period of time?
Went on tour. Toured the U.S. I think twice. Just traveling, skating, up and down the Northeast. Like,
you've graduated.
Yeah. Graduate, stoked, didn't go to prom. I was like, and I'm a skate nerd at the time. That's all I wanted to do. I didn't drink, I didn't smoke, I didn't party, I didn't socialize. I just skate all the time. So that's what I did. And then, I went through some ups and downs with like, I think things took a twist when after the Toy Machine tour, we were out in like Spokane, Idaho, and I jumped off a dock, and I was like, dude, my foot's killing me. And after I would try to skate during the demos to finish the rest of the tour, my foot was hurting pretty bad, and I couldn't skate. But Ed thought that I was not skating because I was being a cool guy.
Mm.
And I was like, no, I can't skate, man. Foot killed. So we went to a hospital.
You told him, though?
Yeah.
Okay.
So he brought me to a hospital. They gave me a tetanus shot, and the doctor's like, I can't see anything wrong with your foot. Like, so I'm like, fine. But every day after the shower, I would go like this, and I would squeeze my foot, and pus would squirt across the room. And I was like, yo, look at this. and everyone's like, yeah. But like I couldn't see anything wrong with it. It was just like a hole.
I mean, that sounds like there was something wrong with it.
But like it was like oozing pus, and it hurt really bad. But it was like, what's wrong with it? Like I couldn't understand. So I got into it with Ed because I felt like he didn't believe me, and I had a huge at this
Squirting
time,
pus wasn't enough.
I had a huge ego too at this time.
Yeah?
My ego was huge.
Really?
Yeah.
I couldn't see that.
It was
man.
pretty bad. And so anyways, I get home, I go to the hospital, I go to a foot doctor, he puts my foot up, he has a magnifying glass and he's tinkering at it. He's like, At first he felt it and he was like, the temperature's hot. Like it shouldn't be this hot. So it's, he recognized the infection. And he's like, next thing you know, he pulled out a splinter. It looked like a match, but it was so deep in my foot that I couldn't see it. So
was it probably like really thin or something? Like you couldn't feel it? Like
maybe just the trajectory of when it went in and broke off. Like I couldn't see, you know how usually you get a splinter, you can see part of it and you can pick at it. Like I couldn't see it. Mm-hmm. And so he pulled it out and it was pretty, I was like, whoa, that was it. So I'm not riding for Toy Machine.
Wait, so that situation caused you to like?
It was kind of a flare.
Machine?
Like everyone was, at the time, we were giving Ed a hard time. Like we were young and you're young, you're skating, you think you're the shit, and like we're giving Ed a hard time. Like we want someone else to do the graphics. We want this. I'm not happy. Man, like we're all ganging up on him, like throwing stuff at him, stressing him out. And I had the bright idea that I was gonna quit. And he was like, why? He's like, and I was like, nah, I thought that I could quit.
What did you want more? What did you want more out of Toy Machine at the time?
I can't remember exactly, but I felt weird that I just felt like he didn't believe me. And I thought that like he should care. But maybe he did. And maybe, he took me to the hospital, but like I said, I was young and my ego was pretty inflated, so that was that. I blew it, and I made some bad decisions. I admit.
Yeah, we all have made.
I never thought about skating as a career back then. It was just like it's just what you did. I didn't know about like burning bridges or like any of that sort of stuff.
Never thought about that type of shit. It would have been funny though if you would have like sent him the splinter.
Oh, I eventually we talked like we're still cool and stuff. Like, but it was a bad decision.
So you quit. I mean, it all works out in the end.
Yeah.
So you quit, learn. And then what's happening now?
I'm just floating around and like, I think from Toy Machine, Mike was riding for Paul at the time and hit me up and was like, yo, I'm doing this thing with Paul. And then I thought Mike should start his own brand again called after his last name. And I thought that he was going to do that under Powell, like their wood shop and resources. But it never happened. But I signed with Powell, and that was pretty rad because I had dental coverage. I'd never had that before.
So it was like a real corporate.
Yeah, it was.
You guys had like insurance and everything.
Yeah, it was like
That's news to me. I've never heard that before.
Yeah,
I didn't know Powell.
It was like pretty rad meeting George Powell and like Cab. Like I stayed at Caballero's place and hung out with him. Got to set up a relationship with him. Like that was a rad experience. But once again, like my ego was so huge. I didn't understand like how to. Like I thought I knew what being a professional was all about, but I feel like I was still just like street kid, like not recognizing opportunities when they're there and kind of,
I went through a lot of that too.
Just being in the moment. You're not looking at like future. You're just like, I want to have fun now. I want to do this now. This is how it is.
So how long were you riding for Pal then?
Went on tour with those guys for a while and came back, and then Mike was like, dude, these guys are bummed on you, blah, blah, blah. Because
These guys?
I just wilded out.
Was Cab bummed on you?
Nah, Cab was right.
Oh, man.
I just did some stupid things, and
It would be whack to have Cab mad at you because he's like the nicest dude ever.
and I started partying, and at that time because I didn't drink, I was straight edge for a long time, and then I got into experimenting and stuff, so I wilded out and said things and did things that probably wasn't cool to say around people or to people, and
Shit happens.
you know, yeah, and we thought it was best if we parted ways, you know.
Shit.
Yeah. I had fun with Danny Wainwright.
Danny Wainwright.
Yeah, he was a man. It was fun, man.
He goes hard too.
I remember that Montel Jordan song was out at the time. This is how we do it. That was it was fun.
So when that ends, you're still in Boston, right?
Still in Boston, going through like life changes. You know, like when it rains, it pours. That's how it's been.
You're like 21?
Yeah, probably
22?
mid-20s.
Early 20s.
Like bad decisions, catching up. Like, what am I gonna do? You know,
People talk.
Finally, the bubble got burst.
Mm-hmm.
Thank goodness. Reality check, and then I kind of got into like reading a lot, and I went through like this Renaissance period.
So you would say that moment was like the humbling moment, like the humbling when you got humbled by that.
Yeah, it was a lot. Like, so I got rained on, so it was a bunch of different things. But yeah, it chilled me out and made me kind of look at things differently and treat people differently, and like.
I feel like sometimes those situations are a blessing in disguise because a lot of people never have that opportunity to have that self-reflection, you know, and they just remain the same kind of in this. Even if they're successful, they just kind of get stuck in a personality that is.
Especially skating.
Yeah.
When someone's like, yo, LSD, yo, like, you know, like things are popping up. Hey, have you ever tried this? Mushrooms. It's like you're you know, it's like you're experimenting with all these different things, and you know, you're like, it seems like a fun ride, but like you can fuck up.
Yeah, for sure. So at this point in time, you go to ADI. When did you go to like?
Yeah.
What happens next?
I was friends with Mike Hernandez. I can't remember how it happened, but no, I think I'm such a blur. I think it was. I can't remember if it was Infamous or ADI. It was Infamous first.
Infamous first.
Yeah, I know Ryan Hickey, Ivan, Mike. It was they had their crew, they had their camp, and they were doing it for a while. And then a couple of heads had broke off, and Matt Bell. It was Matt Bell, Joey Alvarez, I think, NA. They had a tight squad, and it was like their thing. And then something happened, drama happened, and then I knew Ben Liversedge because he went to school at Wentworth Institute, which was in Boston. So he came up from Long Island, and he would skate, and like I was friends with him. And so he was like, hey, here's the deal. Like, and then Mike Hernandez hit me up too. So Benny and Mike hit me up like, yo, we're trying to make this work. Like, we'd be stoked to have you be a part of it. And I started riding for them.
Was your approach different going into that, like after what you had all been through and like kind of, you know, feeling like egotistical and then kind of being a little more humble?
Oh, big time. And like I said, I went through like a renaissance. Like I started just doing a lot of like soul searching and just like being around people that didn't skate and just hanging out with different crowds. And I started reading a lot and just being more into like going to the library and just getting into like Zen Buddhism and Tai Chi and all this stuff. And then I started getting into jazz music. I was at a friend of mine's house, a friend of mine, Steve Fagoni, we were chilling, we were about to go to ZT Maximus, and he put on this Charles Mingus song. And then so I started like, I don't know, I just went through this renaissance. And then
You're in your early 20s.
Yeah. No, I think it was a little bit later.
Okay.
A little bit later. And
20s.
I didn't have much going on, that was for sure. I was skating all the time still, but I wasn't, and at this time too, I wasn't, like, everyone was into filming now, and I hated it because everyone was distracted by the filmer. Like, the filmer would show up, no one would skate, but when the filmer came around, everyone was all, like, trying to get with it, and I was like, oh man, you guys aren't keeping it real. Like, like the thing was, we would go, everyone would skate, and you would just skate. You're in the moment, you're ripping and stuff. But when the whole thing about getting footy was like a big deal, like everyone, that was like controlling the session. And I didn't like filming because it felt unnatural. I would get clips, but it would always be random. Like, oh, I'd come up on a trick.
Get this, get that. Like,
I'd just go along with the session. If I skated, I wasn't doing it twice. If I did, I did. I was stoked on the feeling. I was like, oh, cool. And then if they got it, they got it. But I wasn't into filming at all. That was another thing that people kind of got bummed on because everyone was like, yo, let's go film. And I was like, nah. But I wasn't stressing skating. I loved skating, so I would skate on my own. I would skate by myself all the time.
So in that sense, did you hate shooting photos also?
Shooting photos was a treat. That was a whole different ball game. That was like, because it wasn't digital at the time. It was like, and to me, it was like a different art form. So it was a privilege to me to shoot photos. I looked at shooting photos as like a privilege, and it was like, you didn't shoot the trick unless you had it wired, you know. Like.
Of course. I always say that because kids nowadays will never understand the feeling of looking at a photographer and seeing the pile.
Oh yeah,
the rolls of film,
yeah,
and
money.
the pressure that you feel every time you don't make it, and you see him taking the film out, and you're like, I could do it next try, but maybe I should just give up. And you never know.
How great it was when you seen the photo come out, and if it got printed, you're like, oh snap!
It was crazy.
Yeah, it's a whole different kit.
So you like shooting photos, but you didn't really like filming. At this time, you don't have any sponsors.
No.
You're just kind of doing your thing.
Yeah, I faded off from like the sponsorship stuff. Like I had Etnies was supporting me pretty good. They were giving me ads. I kind of faded off from that. I just kind of felt like I needed to go find myself, and I don't think at that time I was pretty. I don't know, I just needed to go do some soul searching and find myself,
So what do you do then? What did you do at this time?
Like I said, still skating, reading, but just.
Because I know at one point in time you moved to Miami.
Oh, okay.
But that wasn't this time. That wasn't.
Dude, I met this guy, King Cat. He's an old jazz musician from, he grew up in the 60s and so forth. And I was hanging out with him a lot, and I wanted to learn about music. And in my head, I was like, I'm thinking like, I'm gonna learn about music, I'm gonna create a studio, my friend Raquib and my friend Chris Barnes, they were dope MCs, so I was like, we're gonna put together this organization, we're gonna make music. But so I wanted to learn music, and I was trying to learn the drums. My uncle used to play the drums, and I went to him to learn about that. And unfortunately, he was sick at the time. I didn't know, and I used to go visit him in the hospital and stuff. And he ended up having a brain tumor, and so I'd hang out and talk with him and stuff. And he was like, "I can't teach you." Like, it was obvious. So, but we had these moments, and he dropped some jewels on me, like, you should go back to school. You should forgive your father. Don't be angry at him. I'm like, what?
Where was your father? Was he around?
Nah, he wasn't around at all. He had passed away. He wasn't in my life, and then I found out when I was probably 15 or something that he had passed away. So that was that.
It was more about letting that anger go.
Yeah, I didn't even know it was there, Yeah. And then he spoke some words to me before he passed away that were just life changing, and that renaissance that I was telling you about, it just kicked in more, and I was like, all right, I gotta focus, I gotta do this. And so I found the music teacher, King Cat, and I'm like, I want to learn about jazz music. And so, because I found this love for jazz, and he's like, okay, so we're going to the church, and he's trying to tune my ears to the church. There was a local church. He tuned the piano, and we're working, just trying to teach me how to read and write. But he was a trumpet player, so he wanted me to play trumpet, but he wanted me to live it completely. That's it, just straight trumpet playing. And then all of a sudden, I get a call from Adidas. I did some stuff with Wu-Tang too before that, but I get a call from Eric Stricker, and he's like, yeah, I'm putting together this program for Adidas. We'd like to have you down. And I was like, word? And so I was stoked, but at the same time, I figured out I needed to go to school again. My mother's like, you can't not go to, you gotta like do something with your, she called it a God-given gift, you know, like being visually creative. So I stopped drinking and stopped partying, and like I said, I was doing all this stuff, and went to school, told them I wanted to apply for, you know, their program, and they're like, all right, we'll give you some time to put together a portfolio. Do you have one? I was like, no. They're like, all right, we'll give you some time to put it together. So focused, I'm drawing, playing music, skating, bring the portfolio in. I get accepted. But it was funny because I got the call from Adidas, or I got the contract from Adidas, and I ended up getting a full scholarship to the art school at the same time. So like, I hit like rock bottom. Like, luckily I had people giving me like guidance and stuff, you know, and I worked my way out of it to a point where I had some focus, and then, like I said, I was still skating the whole time, but I wasn't pursuing like the professional career.
But people were watching though. That's the thing. Everybody's always watching.
Yeah, Joel Meinholz one time at a party, he's like, yo man, you can't stop skating, you gotta keep skating. I was like, who's this? Like, I didn't know him at the time. I was like, who's this trying to tell me like what's good? Like, Stoops. But I didn't know that he was even interested in like, you know, like I wasn't on the scene. I was skating, but I wasn't in the mix, you know. But I get the scholarship, and I'm like, I gotta do all of this. So eventually I had to step away from the music because I was like I can't let the scholarship go. So I did skating, and then I had I did skating, had the scholarship, and I got the Adidas contract, and went to Europe, and was like trying to juggle being a art student and professional skateboarding. And then that's when I think Infamous clicked in too around that same time.
But you pulled it off though.
Yeah, almost got kicked out of school though.
Really?
Yeah. Got a girlfriend, hanging
That's
out.
another thing. That's another responsibility in itself, right?
I'm like, I'm good. The review board came up. They're like, you don't have enough work. I was like, what are you talking about? And then they just chewed me up, and they were like, you're suspended. You're not getting credit. And then I was like, no. I was like, dude, my mom's gonna be so bummed if I lose the scholarship. And then I was like, focus, focus, and pulled it together.
Damn. That's crazy, man.
Yeah, I didn't tell anyone in school I was a pro skater too. I kept it a secret till like the last year, because I didn't want to I didn't want to be distracted. I was like, I just nerded out on art stuff.
Yeah.
Like libraries. I was in the paint studios on weekends. Just like I was going to the museum all the time, looking at work and studying and all sorts. It was rad. Like I said, I went through this weird renaissance.
So you got a bachelor's degree in fine arts?
I got a degree, yeah. I want to go back for, I daydream about going back, because it's just, I like that whole scene, like being in school and just being submersed in it. So I thought about going back to pursue getting a master's and stuff, or just getting to that level.
You should.
Bachelor's of Fine Art, Master's of Fine Art, or whatever.
What happened with Adidas then? Like
went on tour.
How long were you?
My contract was, I think it was for a few. It was rad. Like, went on couple European tours. And part of the contract was like you had to compete in 4 major contests. So I was like, sure, this is rad. Like, met Lance, skating with Gons, Paulo, Quim, Matt Beach. It was great. Hanging out with John Humphreys. It was an awesome experience. Totally took this, like, not like serious, but I made it fun and enjoyed it. It was great. And then 9/11 happened, and the world changed. Everything shifted from there, and things just were like weird and warped. Like, it was bizarre. And then
You feel like that affected like your career somehow?
I feel like it affected everything.
Everything,
just
right?
everything.
Yeah.
Like, I thought it was just a, you know.
It was a weird
Yeah,
time,
it was just a weird time.
for sure.
Like, I don't know how a lot of people were affected by it, but psychologically, it, you know, did a number on me. It was like, what's gonna happen next, you know?
Yeah.
And
I definitely didn't take a shower for like 2 weeks. I
Yeah.
was like, yo, there's like shit in the water, chemicals in the water, like
You
they're
were
trying to
here?
kill us. Like shit's about to explode.
Dude.
Like, dude, I lived in LA at the time. I was like, yo, I'm gonna move to Canada. Like, this shit's getting
yeah,
crazy.
It was gnarly, man.
So, where were you at when you filmed Underachievers? That part, like, what point in time was this? Because I know that part was super influential to a lot of people, and I think it was like, I don't know, just a moment that everybody loved. So I don't know what.
I was sponsored still. I forget by who at the time, but I think I was getting shoots from Etnies and Venture Trucks, and I didn't have a solid board sponsor at the time, and I had traveled. There was some contests on the East Coast that were huge. It was like all the pros from California came to go to Bricktown and New York, the Brooklyn Banks contest, and I was like I had to go, so I made the trip down, and I was with Jeremy Traub, and then I ended up hopping into a car with Javier Nunez and this dude Vinny Rafa. I think it's Rafa, yeah. And he drove us to these other contests that were in Jersey and further south. And so we went to this place, I think it was called Eatontown. I could be wrong, but it was like a roller skating rink, and it had obstacles set up, and it was like a jam session. And I think Mike V was definitely going there, and I wanted to link up with him and skate. And so I got there, and everyone's skating. It's super rad. It's fun. And then this dude comes up to me with a camera, and he's like, "Can I film a couple tricks with you?" And he introduced himself. He's like, "Oh, my name's Dan. I'm working on this video. Do you mind?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And so after, he gave me his number, and he said that he'd like to come up to Boston sometime and film me up in Boston. I was like, "Yeah, sure." But I didn't think that it would ever happen, because still at the time, I'm not into filming.
Yeah, I was gonna say you don't like filming.
And I don't like film, but I was just in a moment skating, and he was polite and like, "Hey, can I film tricks?" And I didn't even think about him. I was just skating. And so I had never known anyone to independently produce their own videos and stuff. So I was like, and I wasn't familiar with his work. So he followed up, and he came up to Boston, and we worked on a part. And I didn't know I was getting a part. He just was like, "Yeah, let's film." And then next thing you know, I made it down to Tampa. And at the time, I was getting flow boxes from World Industries. Rodney Mullen hooked me up with flow boxes. So I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna send this footy to Gino and these guys on 101 and Rodney and try to get on." And so down at Tampa, and they're like, "Oh, like, Easton, we're gonna premiere this video." And they premiered Easton Exposure, and it was super rad, and like just there, and it came on, and like seeing it all and everything, and I was like, damn, and I was like, damn, these guys killed it, you know, like Pepe and Tim O'Connor, and then Ricky's part. It was like, I was like, whoa. And then I had a part, and I was just stoked to have a part. But I was just, and just the cheer from the audience was like, oh shit, like they're feeling this. And then Dan was rad about it. Like, you know, I didn't choose the music. Like I didn't have anything to do with it other than skate, and that's all I wanted. I just wanted to skate. And I took him around the city. It was organic. We just skated around.
Did you know all those other guys were gonna be in the video as well?
No, I didn't know anything about it.
Shit.
I just knew that he made time at certain times of the trip to go link up with Panama and Robbie and Charlie and stuff. I mean, not Charlie. Charlie Wilkins. And I was just like, oh, you know, I was shocked. And then when I heard the music, I wasn't hip to Gil Scott at the time. So I was a little bummed because I wanted, like, at the time, I'm a Wu-Tang. I'm like, I want to hear, and I was like, he gave me, and I didn't know. But then years later, I ended up becoming like a huge fan. And people, it didn't really hit me until like when I lived in Miami, and people would come up to me like, yo, Eastern Exposure, and I was like, whoa, really?
I feel like it's like that. It's always like that. Like you work on something and you don't really think much of it, and then it comes out.
Yeah, I had no idea.
It's incredible.
I was just stoked to be a part of it, but I don't know. Maybe it took like maybe 5 to 10 years. Like what was it? Maybe 5 years had passed or something, and then people were like, "Yo, I watched that video every day before I went to go skate," and then I watched it all the time because the New York section in it is, that's like, to me, that's like the ultimate way of display. Like, I don't know, it was just a rad way to express street skating in New York. And that part always got me. And I was just super honored to be a part of it. But that was all Dan's work. Like, he chose the song and the editing and stuff. So I was like, thank you.
Speaking of Wu-Tang, you said earlier that you did some stuff for you worked with Wu-Tang or something.
Yeah. The guys at Strength Magazine out of Cincinnati, they were distributing Ware. And Aaron Hoover and Stricker hit me up. Was like, yo, they had Wu-Tang had approached those guys, like, hey, we want to do skate stuff. Can you work with us? So they put the team together, and I helped play a part in that, and
kind of like a consultant, or like
somewhat like I helped produce a series of graphics, and I worked with Aaron Hoover closely on it, and like he's like, what do you think? And then like, who should we get? I was like, Maurice Key. Who else? I was like, Kevin Taylor. You know, and then we had other people lined up, and we were like, oh, maybe we could turn this into something long term. And that was really cool. We never got to meet them and stuff, but we were supposed to like do more stuff with it. But
do you still have any of those, like that product, or like any of those boards, or?
Yeah, my friend Rocky, it was funny, like he was a big time Wu banger, and he's like, yo, you got to do a board graphic based off of this lyric, and it was Camouflage Chameleon, and I was like, all right, and he conceptualized it, and like I was like, come on, put it together, and then I ended up working to put it together, and it was like the Camouflage Chameleon board. It came out really well. I still got that. That's probably that one's the only one I think I have. Maybe the Lion. Yeah.
Sick. So you're riding for Infamous, right? You graduate. You're on Adidas. What happens next with Infamous? Were you on at the same time as Chris Keefe?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Chris, Mike, Ben. I can't remember everyone, but yeah. They're gonna be mad at me because I don't know.
Did you ever hear the Chris Keefe, Bobby Pulido story?
Yeah.
I want to tell that story, but I want one of them to tell the story.
Yeah, I can't tell a story.
Hopefully one of you guys will come on the show and you can tell the story.
But and it's kind of rad in some ways because it just showed the realness of like how, you know, like people just like, you cross people and like different, you know, people have different mentalities, and like you gotta respect people, man. You can't. you cross people. Some some people have different ways of handling things.
For sure.
You know?
Yeah, we gotta get those guys on.
Yeah, I'm not speaking about it, but I wasn't there, but I know what happened.
We'll leave it at that. So, where are we at? It's like the early 2000s. You're on Infamous. Things are like kind of weird. At what point in time do you move to Miami?
Things were good, and I wanted to move to Spain because I wanted to get out the U.S. I wanted a different culture.
Yeah.
I wanted a different
I did that, so.
I was like, and I could afford it at the time, and I was like, all right, when I graduate, I'm gonna move to Barcelona because I went there with Adidas and I loved it. I loved the culture, I loved the vibe and everything, and it wasn't blown out at this time. And I came really close to doing it, and I didn't. And then I was gonna move to Tokyo, Japan, because I was still involved with the girl that I was dating at the time. Mm-hmm. She was from Tokyo, Japan. So I was gonna do that, and I didn't do it. But I was like, I gotta get out of Boston because it was kind of like closing up on me. You know, mm-hmm. you grew up in a city that's a small city, and like I ran that city. I ran around in circles multiple times, all over the place. So I was like, it was closing in. I was like, I gotta get out of here. And I went out to LA for a while, and I was hanging out with Jerry. Actually got me out there, and I was hanging out with Jerry, Felix, and a friend of ours, Haven Lamoureux.
I skated with you at this point in time.
And
we skated on a rooftop with a picnic table.
Yeah, and the girl guys were filming Yeah Right.
Yep.
I remember that was so fucking sick. It was so awesome going to that premiere. Oh, it was so amazing. And then, but I couldn't adapt to the LA lifestyle. Like I didn't drive, and I was like, I didn't feel right, you know. And then I had some IRS stuff I needed to handle, so I was like, oh, I'm gonna go back and give Uncle Sam his money, and then figure out my next move. And then I don't want to get into it too much, but there was someone that I was interested in, a female, and we went on a couple dates and stuff, and I was really into her, and we were writing letters, and I was in LA writing her and stuff. She got me to get an email address. I was like, email? I was like, what's email? You just sign on and you get it. I was like, all right. And she went sailing with her dad down to Miami, and I started going to visit her, and I met Ed and Chris Williams and the guys down at MIA, and I was like, this is rad down here. Skate all year round, and it's like, and I ended up moving to Miami. Yeah.
And that's when you met Joel and...
Yeah, I met all those dudes, yeah.
I know he was the man at the time, like running the nightclub scene and everything.
Yeah, he was definitely the mayor, for sure.
Or did you ever get caught up in any of that, going out in Miami and stuff?
Oh, yeah, it was a great time. I mean, I had my boundaries and stuff, like, so I was good, you know, like I had partied enough that, like, I was just stoked to be in this relaxed setting. It was like the most chillest time, because it was almost like being on a, like living in the islands. Nothing got popping till 12 noon, and I lived 5 minutes from the beach, and it was beautiful weather, and it was great. So partying, it was like, oh, this is fun, but I never could go too crazy. It wasn't in me at that time, so.
And what were you doing? Were you still getting paid to skate, or?
No, I got a normal job. My contract from Adidas wasn't reissued at that time. And I took another hiatus from the industry stuff, because Infamous was kind of like a salty thing that bummed me out. And then I ended up writing for American Dream for a while, and that was pretty rad. That was a really awesome time. And then that fizzled out. And Jerry got me, at one time Jerry had put in words for me, and he wanted me to ride for DNA. And Actually, I was riding for DNA before I actually even moved to Miami. And it was fun just being on tour and riding with him and stuff, but at some point I just wasn't happy with like just the politics of being sponsored and like the pressure and stuff like that. So I kind of was like, you know what? Like I felt like it was more important that I stay happy with what I'm doing rather than like having the stress and people like, you need to do this, you need to do hammers, and you need to skate like this. I was like, you ain't getting enough coverage. So I was like, you know what? I did it before, like, because I'd always had work too. Like, even when I wasn't working at the skate shop, I was doing carpentry, I was doing all sorts of jobs.
That's super important to like, just to know how to be able to do that and have that work ethic.
Yeah, big time.
I can tell you for sure, nobody that I grew up with, practically anybody from Embarcadero never had a job.
Yeah.
Like, the skaters never worked. Even if you were broke, you didn't work.
Dude, I worked at the CVS, and the heads would come in and be like, yo, what are you doing working at CVS? And I was like, cashier, and like, oh, here you go. Wait, I thought you were a pro skater. You know? It's like, here's your change.
We had a couple homies that worked at Subway, downtown San Francisco, and we made so much fun of them. But thinking back, it was like, yeah, you gotta work.
Yeah,
Eat. Like,
it was rad for me.
Yeah.
Like I digged it because I got to be like a normal person.
It instills something in you that's very valuable.
Yeah. They
Just for knowing how to navigate through life, basically.
Yeah, big time. It's important values. You gotta know how to work. My mother taught me that.
So you're in Miami, you're like just doing your thing. Is skating something that you want to get back into, or?
At the time, just having fun.
You're just having fun.
Having fun. Still doing art stuff. I was customizing shoes for people. Like,
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it was weird. I was like Missy Elliott, Common, like all these NBA players. It was crazy. I was $250 a pop.
What were you doing? Like you were airbrushing them?
No, it was just like paint pens and whatever. It was awesome.
What?
I was like just hitting it, and then that kind of sparked like an entrepreneur thing in me. And I was skating one day at South Point by myself, and I was like, damn, I'm still skateboarding after all these years. And I was thinking about when I first got my pro board. I mean, like my sister took me to Beacon Hill Skate to get my first real professional skateboard. And I remember the kids, they were doing ollies onto benches and just doing like stationary ollies, rolling ollies. And I remember walking through the corridor and hearing the sounds and the way the boards rattled at that time, like the shape of the wood and everything. And just being like mesmerized, like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And I thought they were doing bunny hops because I was from a BMX background. And you would do like a J hop, we called it, and then it was like a bunny hop. And so I was like, oh man, look at that. And at the time in Miami, I was like, I want to start something. I want to create and I was like, I gotta keep skating. I was like, the flame's it's burning too much. And I was like, I could either like try to create something or try to ride for some other companies and stuff. And the way it worked out was I ended up starting something, and then when I was thinking about the name of the company, I was like a bunch of things kicked in, but I was like, hops made sense because I had all these ties to when skating was pure and innocent to me, and I was like, and this is like a rebirth. It was a rebirth for me to get back into it and try it. And then I had Mike Vallely, actually, yeah, because I'm in Boston, we would say Mike Vallely.
I thought it was Mike Valley my whole life.
And then, but it's Valley. Yeah. Mike Valley had started his own thing, and then Ed Templeton had started his own thing. So I felt like my peers, these guys turned me pro and took me under their wing. So I felt like, okay, it's my time to try. At least give it a try. So I gave it a shot.
So you started hops essentially in Miami.
The concepts. Idea. I had a notebook and ideas, but I didn't think I could do it. It was still like a fantasy, but I would sketch and draw, and I was working all the time. So, and then my girlfriend at the time, she wanted to move to New York. And at the time, there was a lot of interesting things that I felt was happening in New York. And I thought to myself, I was like, you know what? If this is gonna be like because at this time, I probably shouldn't have been still skating. I probably should, I had so many different like ups and downs. I probably should have been like out of skating by that time.
I mean, there's no right or wrong way how you do it,
And so the thing was like, if this is gonna be like my last stretch, then I want to street skate in New York. Because in Miami, I was street skating, and kids would trip out because they're like, yo, they didn't skate around. Like, I was like, oh wait, it's like they don't have that concept of the street skating experience that I had growing up in the Northeast is like moving all throughout the city, And Miami, the architecture is different, and the setting's different. So it's like, you're living on a beach. And there was a lot of kids from South America. I was skating from Colombia, Medellin, and so forth. So I was like, yeah, I want to be in New York, And I had moved there after September 11th, and it was like, it was gnarly. Once again, it was gnarly. So I was like, I left. So I was like, I'm gonna go back. So my girlfriend and she's my wife now.
Okay. I was going to ask if it's
we moved back. Yeah, same person. Yeah, I got her.
Locked it in. That's cool, man. So you come back to New York and you just start like bringing your ideas to life, or like?
Yeah. I was starting a company. Went to the bank. And I was like, you need a business license. I was like, really? So I go to City Hall, get the business license. And I was like, wait. And my friend's like, yo, you gotta get a trademark. I was like, what? So I didn't know how the structure. I just was learning as I went along. Next, I got a trademark, I got a business license, tax ID number. All this stuff started coming together, and the banks were good with loans and stuff, all that good stuff. So it was like,
it's interesting because I feel like people are either creative or they're business, and a lot of times people aren't both. It seems like maybe you're kind of like you're able to do both, maybe. That's why people have managers and money managers and stuff like that, because creative people can't manage business,
Yeah, there's definitely things that intuitively don't align at times with things that require like more of
a business mind.
Yeah, just more discipline. I don't like the term business mind. But yeah, there's fundamental things that you probably should know about business, with starting a business and operating a business.
Yeah. But I mean, also at the same, like just knowing that is also, you have to be smart enough to know that you're not that smart.
Yeah.
I always say that. Like we don't know everything, and part of being intelligent is knowing when to go ask other people or seek help.
Yeah.
Or like, seeking outside information.
Yeah, right.
Knowing
Absolutely
that
right.
I can't do this by myself. So. It took me a while to learn that.
Good lessons to learn.
Yeah, man. So hops, you bring it to life. Your idea comes into reality. You got some boards out. You set up a little team. Who's the first people on the team?
Jerry Fowler. I was living in Bed-Stuy, at the corner of Marcus Garvey and Halsey.
It's 2 blocks from my house.
And things started popping off. And I'm carrying boxes up and down, 4 flights, summertime, like this, 2 boxes here, 2 boxes here. UPS guy's like, yo, what are you doing? I was like, I started the skateboard brand. He's like, really? So he's helping me, and he's stoked for me and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, it's taking off now. And then I had made a connection with Chapman Skateboards in Long Island, and they were producing the boards for me, the production. And Greg Chapman at the time was like, hey, you're gonna hit a point where you're not gonna be able to, I was doing it out of my apartment. Like my bedroom was a stock room, boards everywhere, t-shirts. And he's like, we can do some warehousing for you and help you, And then I started getting orders from overseas, and I was trying to figure out all the like international shipping. And I was like, I can't do it. And Chapman was like, we'll help you out. And then boom, I moved the operation, at least the warehousing and shipping.
They're out in Long Island, right?
Out in Long Island, yeah. And that really helped out. And then Jerry and I were in contact, and I was just like, yo, how do you feel about skating? Because, you know, we're like I said, both of us at that time had gone through so many changes and so forth. And I was like, how do you feel about skating? He's like, dude, I'm stoked. I'm like, feel good about it and stuff. And we just kept talking and talking.
By the way, Jerry Fowler is one of the like gnarliest skaters ever.
Tell me.
I mean, shout out to you, Jerry Fowler, because that dude was way ahead of his time. Way ahead of his time. It was crazy.
So much board control. It's ridiculous. Yeah. So yeah, Jerry was down. He was the first person on. And that was an honor and privilege, just to reunite with him after our all the years of riding for different companies and stuff, and then having a pro rider at his caliber, you know, like, and I'd see his footy and just be like, damn, like he's shredding. And then who came on next? I want to say it was Steve Brandy came next. And then I want to say Andre Beverly. He was a young kid from, I think he's from Flatbush.
Yeah, Flatbush, I believe, yeah.
He was right, yeah.
He's good.
I tried to work with him, and then Joel got on. But it was right because it was all organic. Like it was, because I was shook. I didn't want, like, I just wanted to do what I felt like I needed to do, which was like just make product. And everyone's like, businesses go under, like most businesses fail in 3 years. So to me, I was like, I gotta figure out how to
hit this mark.
Yeah. So I didn't want to grow too big, and I didn't want to put like a bunch of people on. I didn't know anything about team management or anything. Still don't, but. So I try to not bite off more than I can chew, which I end up doing. But
I mean, I think it's probably almost inevitable, right? Like,
yeah,
you're gonna get to a point where you just have to make moves that maybe you're not used to making, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's been pretty awesome experience. Like, definitely, I wouldn't change a thing.
I know it was kind of like a struggle at first, like having a small board brand, and then from what I remember, like you got into Supreme. That was like your first.
Yeah.
That was your first. What's the word I'm looking for?
First account.
Your first account. Yeah.
That was major.
How did that happen?
Awesome. It's funny because I was calling. I had to do the sales. People were denying me left and right and throwing down with me. Yeah. But they would never order, and I was like, damn. Like, all right, I did a demo for these guys. These guys would definitely back it. Nah. And I went to Supreme one day because I'm living in Manhattan. I'm working in Soho, so I'd go by Supreme and chill sometimes. I'd just stop in on my lunch break. And I was like, hey, Ryan, I got this project I'm working on. You think I can come by and...
Ryan Hickey.
Ryan Hickey.
Okay.
And I was like, could you tell me what you think about it, you know? I brought I brought stuff in so he could, not product, but just the designs and stuff. And he was like, he's like, when you get stuff done, like, bring it in and we'll take it. And he was like, yeah. And he because I know those guys are super critical.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And so Ryan blessed me, and people are like, yo, I seen your boards in Supreme. And I was like, oh yeah. And I would go by and see him. And so it was rad.
Did that, like, was that a validation, or did that help the brand at all?
Yeah, because no one knew what it was.
Or the people were like kind of sweating it after that, or was it still a little bit of a struggle? Like, it just...
It helped. It helped big time because I didn't know at the time, but they wasn't carrying everyone's stuff. And people were always banging on their doors to get product in there, and they were like, no. So...
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's like one of the hardest places to, like, get your stuff in. Even though it wasn't, like, as crazy as it is now in those days, but still, they were, like, really picky.
Yeah.
To be in there was, like, a super privilege, you know?
Yeah, I wasn't complaining at all, and things started moving. that were moving product. And then I got another shop, and then another shop, and another shop. And most of the business had kind of like, Supreme was the first account, and most of my business was overseas. And it was just shocking to me the amount of places I got denied getting in. But
places that you probably wouldn't think you would get denied.
Yeah.
You get denied, and then other places where you're like, I can't do that, and they're like, come on in.
But it's like once things started rolling and it started popping up, then people are like, and it was a good time too, because like the sneaker culture was booming too. So you had a lot of different shops and retail shops, and you had sneaker boutiques that were selling boards, and so I started getting these different markets, and people didn't know what it was. They didn't know if it was a street brand or if it was a skate brand. No one knew anything about it. They're like, what is it? But it was like, it was moving around.
That's interesting that you say that, because that kind of brings me to my next question, where it's like, for me, hops is very conceptually and aesthetically is like, you can tell that everything's very well thought out, you know?
Wow.
And very well curated. And so it almost, it's hard to tell, probably from an outsider's perspective, like, is this a skate brand, or is this a streetwear brand, or like, what is this? It seems like it's a little deeper than like the average skate brand. I mean, I don't know. I mean, if there's a
just been winging
like, there's more, like, there's a little more thought put into it, you know.
Just
That's
a little bit of art school, a little bit of street life, a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
I mean, is there like a narrative or like a message that you push with hops? It seems like.
Yeah, it's just street. Like I love skateboarding, but as time went on, I have all these other things too. That, you know, I love street culture, I love music, I love art, and just putting these things together and trying to make sense of it visually. And then, I mean, being on the East Coast and doing it, and then being in New York. New York's been a huge inspiration. You know, there've been not tons, but there's been a handful of really cool companies that I grew up admiring that I'll give props to, like Andy Howell did Underworld Element. That was like super rad to me. Shut Skates, Rod Smith and Bruno Musso. Those dudes were always super rad in their aesthetic. I didn't try to bite or anything, but these companies, the way they did it, it just seemed organic and like the way it should be done. And then now here was my chance to kind of like personify put my ideas out as how I see it. You know.
Yeah. So who's on the team right now?
City Stars too.
No.
Yeah.
You think so?
Yeah.
City Stars was alright.
No. Menace.
Menace was dope. I feel bad that I always say that about City Stars, because like I love P-Rod and all those dudes, but I just prefer the Menace time.
All City was dope, and then they had a mess.
Kareem was like really ahead of his time with a lot of things
genius.
he was doing.
Oh, he was so awesome.
Yeah,
when was the first time you met Kareem?
First time I met Kareem was definitely at Embarcadero.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I actually got on Menace through Joey Surreal, because we skated together on 60/40 with Mark Gonzalez.
Yeah, yeah.
So when Kareem started Menace, Joey recommended me. And then I remember Kareem coming up to Embarcadero, and it was like, it was kind of like a tryout.
Yeah.
And I was like, this dude's going to watch me skate.
From 60/40, it was like you, Steven, Joey, Fabian, Ron Chapman.
That shit was like crazy nerve-wracking.
What was his name, Larry?
Larry Davis?
No,
Larry
brother.
Clark?
Nah, I want to say Larry Moore.
Larry Moore, Long Beach Larry Moore.
Yeah, you guys had an ill squad.
Yeah.
Gino Perez.
Exactly.
60/40 was awesome.
Thing about skating with Kareem was I had never, like Reem, he's like really from the hood.
Yeah.
And like me, like I would hang out with him and his cousins and shit, and I would be like, yeah, you know, we like in SF, we like, you know, we were all from where we were from, but like we never really hung around with those types of brothers from the hood. You know what I mean?
And so it was interesting for me to like kind of step into his world and hang out with Kareem. Like I've come to New York with Kareem, hung out in Harlem, been at 125th,
Yeah.
like with all his cousins, and been in LA. And
someone please do a documentary on Kareem Campbell. Like his.
I want Kareem. I would love to have Kareem come on the show because I just feel like he hasn't told his story.
Yeah.
And he needs to tell it. And you know, we all love Kareem, so we got to get him on here.
The same thing you said. First time I met Kareem, he did a demo at Beacon Hill Skate. All the world guys came through. He crushed it. Like, we had never seen late shove-its. Mm-hmm. He was like, 360 late shoving down the stairs, like big spin. And we were just like, wow, what was that he just did? Like, and the way he skated, like just, like his finesse and his power it was amazing.
Yeah.
And he kept to himself and stuff. And I was like, damn, that dude is ill. And Toy Machine tour, we're out in the Midwest somewhere. Menace guys show up. Toy Machine doing, Menace guys show up. Fabian's ripping, everyone's ripping. And Kareem comes up, there was a spine ramp. And he goes up, I think it was pretty tall. And he went up and he did a straight kickflip, caught it, and went back in the other side. And I was just floored because as a street skater, I'm like, you're not supposed to be, you know, like street, whatever that means. But I was like, that was insane. And like, so we're at the hotels and stuff, and I remember kicking it with him, and he was telling me, you know, and the same thing happened with Harold too, like Harold Hunter. We started talking, similar stories, and Kareem was like, yeah, I used to play ball, and then they talk about the hustling, stuff like that, being young. And I was like, yeah, I couldn't do it. Like that wasn't for me. And I was like, Kareem's he's lived that life. And same thing with Harold when I met Harold. And it was just bizarre to have like skaters, like just to be linking with other skaters that kind of, you know, growing up in the projects and like getting involved with skateboarding. And next, you know, you're like traveling the world. Yeah, Kareem's the man.
When's the last time, I haven't seen him in a long time. When's the last time you've seen him?
I think at a trade show when I first started Hops. Yeah.
I know he still does City Stars, but I don't really know what's going on with it. But.
Yeah. Someone please do a documentary. It's funny too, I was saying one day, I was thinking how like he should have been on Jordan. Those guys are asleep. Like he should have been signed to Nike and been like on brand Jordan or something.
I know, it's true. He wanted to be on Reebok. And that's why he made the KCK that looks like the Reebok. In fact, I know.
He convinced us to skate them.
I think when Stevie had his Reebok deal, there might have been a little friction between the two because there was he felt some kind of way about it because that's what he always wanted, you know what I mean? But
I could imagine that. Like Kareem made that shoe popular. And he's that dude, the influencer. Like, man, so brilliant.
For sure. So Hops, who rides for the team now?
Steve Brandy, Joe Meinholz, Dustin Edgerling, Nick Rudinsky, Mark Del Negro. I gotta be forgetting someone. I know there's someone I'm forgetting.
Brian Clark?
No, Brian's fan. Oh, yeah.
He turned into a firefighter.
Yeah.
Shout out to Brian Clark.
Yeah,
we
no
fucking
doubt.
Love that guy.
He's handling it real tough. Keith Dinley.
Is he still on the team?
Yeah, he's
that's my dog,
family.
right?
I look at this way. If you were in Hops crew, you're always fan. That's how I look at it because I didn't put anyone down, and I felt a definite bond with the dudes. Like not being corny about it, but I felt a real connect with them, and I'm just like they're always family. You know?
Yeah, half of that crew skated for DQM, and they would always come in the shop when I was there.
Yeah, that's right.
And it was like I kind of didn't really know who anybody was or what anybody like how they skated, or I was just like there working in the shop, and then eventually we all like started skating together. I think we did a couple nights at the House of Vans, and then I was like, these dudes fucking kill it. I was like, yo, this crew is like pretty sick.
It's so rad. Like because I would skate with Keith at KCDC when I worked there, but he rode for Chapman, but he was super rad, and eventually, like he ended up hurting his knee for a while, and he was out, but eventually it worked out. I started giving him boards and stuff. Then Brian Clark was super rad. I would watch him sometimes, and then he was riding for Fiber and I think Zoo, and he was like not riding for anyone, and that worked. So like everyone came together organically. It was beautiful. It was awesome.
I saw Steve Brandy just came out as gay,
Yeah.
openly gay.
Yeah.
Is that something that you had known about for a while, or
Yeah.
you just kind of kept it on the low?
I didn't know for a while. Then one day he shared it with me,
Okay.
and I was like, wow.
Yeah, that's cool. He must feel real like liberated.
Yeah, so proud of him. Because you never understand the type of things that someone's dealing with internally. You know, like I had no, I never thought about it. And then one day he's like, yo, I want to talk to you about some stuff. And I was like, oh no, he's gonna quit. You know, like I was like, damn. And we were driving around and he was talking, and I was like, damn, this is heavy. And I was like, dude, like, please. Like, I thought he was gonna say it was cancer or something. I thought it was like,
yeah. Your mind is like,
yeah, because I'm like, what does he want? What does he want to? Like, what is it? And then he told me. I was like, dude, I don't give a fuck. I was like,
it's almost like a relief, right?
Yeah.
Because you're thinking like, he has cancer, he's gonna quit.
He's not dying. Like, he's good. And then I was like, word. And then, like, yeah, it's right because nothing's changed.
Yeah, it shouldn't.
Except that I get to see more of his life and how it's unfolding. It's been a beautiful, eye-opening experience, you know, and definitely like, yeah, it's just real cool to be able to experience that with him.
That's cool.
Yeah.
What's you guys did the Cons project?
Yeah.
I want to get some myself if I can. At some
What
point.
size?
10.5.
That might be done.
Oh, that was a dope project. How'd that come about?
It was on a. I don't want to get too much into it, but every now and then, like, okay, well, first off, I had sprained this toe. I had like what do they call it? Turf toe. Like football players get it. Popped out of place, and I asked the kid that was next to me. I was like, pull it, and he pulled it, popped it in, and I didn't skate for like 8 months, and it sucked. I lost everything. It was hard to deal with, and when I was trying to get back on skating, I had to find. My doctor's like, you got to find shoes that are supporting your foot. And so one day Steve's like, he's like, yo, I got some shoes I think you like. You should try them. And they were the Dr. J's. And so I tried them, and I was like, oh, these are cool. And then I got these. Then he was like, oh, I'm gonna talk to Lee and let him know you're stoked on his shoes. And I had known Lee from Massachusetts, the Boston area.
Lee Berman?
Lee Berman, yeah. So Lee blessed me with some shoes, and they were like these new ones, and they had tricked them out for skating and stuff, and I could skate in them without my feet hurting, and I was like, these are sick. And so I started wearing those shoes all the time. They turned out to be like my favorite shoes. And then every now and then, like, Zara would be like, yo, why don't you do something? And I was like, it's not my decision. And then everyone would kind of like, hey, why don't you do something?
You're like, yeah, I would love to, but it's not really up to me.
Yeah, and then, but I had, it's a long story. I don't want to get into all the details because I was talking with someone about it, and because I had sent someone a text like, yo, these are my favorite. And they were like, yo, we should maybe do something. And I was like, sure, I'd love to.
And I mean, regardless of how it happened, the fucking project is dope. You guys gonna do anything else moving forward in the future, or?
It came together really well. We all worked really hard on it. We were all working with Josh Stewart was awesome, and Steve was awesome, and yeah, it was just it was fun. We kept the experience pretty cool.
So the video, you know, aesthetically was also incredible. You know, the whole project in itself. how did you guys, you know, come up with the concept for the video and all that?
It came together organically once again, but it was like I had somewhat of a vision from the jump how I seen it, how I wanted to do it, and I knew the people that I wanted to work with on it. But it was ultimately it's a collaboration between everyone that's involved. Like Steve had the idea about the phone booths. Like he didn't want to tell me at first. He was like, oh, like because he wanted to call me up on the low and just be like, hey, let's go skate, and me answer my phone and be like, okay, where at? And you know, and I kept telling him, what's the idea? And he didn't want to tell me. And finally he told me, and then I was like, oh, okay. And we pursued it, but at times ideas would manifest, and we were like, oh, this works. And then we had solid ideas that we knew we wanted to pursue. Like I knew I wanted jazz music, and I was reaching out to all the like I was like trying to get in touch with guys at Blue Note. It didn't work out. I was like, damn. And then there were other people that I was reaching out to as alternatives that I thought felt right, and that didn't work out. And then I was like, I knew I didn't want any sort of jazz band. So I went to this club called Smalls down in the West Village, and I heard these guys play, and I was like, I knew the guy. The guy Joe Farnsworth. He got on stage and he was talking, and I felt his vibe, and I was like, he would understand skateboarding like totally, and I was like, and then once he started playing, I was like, they're rad, and so I hit him up, and we talked and we worked that out.
So they're local guys, like not really,
Yeah.
I mean, famous in that sense, but kind of just doing their thing, like creating
Well,
amazing music.
he's a very prolific jazz drummer. I don't know too much about his history, but I felt his music, and the homework that I did do on his music and himself. He's one of the illest drummers or the raddest drummers, and you know, playing in music still right now.
So the piece that they did for you, was that something they already had? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And we all had like Josh would have ideas, and he would bring it to the table. Hey, and it was interesting because when you tell Josh ideas about stuff, like if he's not psyched, he's not gonna move. You know, and it's tough because you can tell like he's not feeling it. But when he's stoked on an idea, like you can see the gears grinding, and it's like, good, he's fucking, because he starts visualizing it, and he's like, hey, what if we do this and do that? And then it slowly just started manifesting and coming together. But it's hard trying to, like, he's a great storyteller, and like it was hard like putting it all together, and he's a master, so he came through with some brilliant ideas of like how to break things up and so forth. But like, and Steve's very conceptual as well, and he has ideas on how he's visual, and he has a good sensibility with editing and music and so forth. So he brought that to the table. So it was like we were going at it, man, chopping it up. It was rad.
Dope.
Yeah, I'm glad we made it work.
For sure.
Because it was stressful at times. It was like, dude, we don't, like, shots would go wrong, and then like we were trying to find Larry Wright, who plays the bucket drums, and that was like a mission. We couldn't. It was like we were just everywhere trying to find him. Like seeing him, I'm like, dude, he's here. You guys gotta come now. Like we gotta like talk to him now. It was awesome. So much like weird things happened along the way. It was like, dude, I can't believe it worked out. Like for instance, like Steve walks up to this restaurant, and he's like, we can shoot it here. And I'm like, they're not gonna let us shoot there, you know? And he just starts grabbing a table and like moving things out the way, and a waiter comes over and he's like, oh, we'll be fine, we're just gonna, and he has a way with people, and he finessed it, and next thing you know, we're shooting the scene inside of in front of the restaurant. Like no permits, just like.
It's funny because I'm working in production, and usually that takes like a week to fucking clear a restaurant.
Dude, the scene with the guys on the bike, like he went, caught up with the dudes, like, yo, da 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 da. I'm like, yeah, he was like, he can rig stuff like on a go.
I feel like if you ask for something, a lot of times you'll get it.
Yeah.
It's just like, you just gotta ask for it.
Yeah, because I seen all the guys going by, and we were just like, oh, check them out. And then Josh like, oh, that'd be sick if we could get them to if we can ride with them. And I was like, the day I wasn't feeling, I was like, I was bummed. So I was like, I ain't doing shit. And I just felt that way. And then Steve was like on it and like made it happen. And then it comes, and then those guys in a piece, it brought so much to the, you know.
Yeah.
It was rad.
Sick. You and Josh Stewart have like a lengthy relationship with the static videos, and now you work together with Theories. How did that relationship start? Like, how did you guys meet?
I was working at KCDC, and I was skating a lot. I lived on Hope Street in Williamsburg. I have a loft space. I was living the life. It was super rad. And I would see Josh Stewart, Steve Brandy, and Bobby Julio all the time, like just randomly. And I'd be like, oh, what's up? And I knew Bobby from Infamous. And so I think I was skating Tompkins Square Park one day, because I used to go there like every day. And Josh showed up one day, and he was like, yo, we should go out and film sometime. And I was like, you know, like, once again, I'm not really interested in filming, so I'm like, yeah, sure. But I was like, he's not gonna call me up, because most of the guys that I would meet that would say like, hey, let's film, I either didn't like working with them for some reason, like they wouldn't send me the footy, or they would film bad, and I just would have these bad experiences. I was like, no, I'm not gonna waste my time.
You spend a lot of time with somebody when you're filming. Like, you gotta like them first.
Yeah, it's like, I'm like,
you gotta vibe.
You can get broke off, and it's like, dude, this guy I just got broke off, and the footy looks like crap too, you know. And not that I'm an expert on what footy should look like, but and he followed up, and we went out filming for the MIA video. I think that was the first jump off. I think I'm confused a little bit, but anyway, I started going out with Bobby, Josh, and Steve, skating, just having fun. And I started coming up on clips, and another clip, and another clip. And a lot of these spots I had never been to, so I was having fun, and they knew the territory pretty good. And next thing you know, Josh is like, you know, you're gonna need a commercial at some point for your brand, like, you know. And I was like, all right, sure, let's do one. And then so we did one. And he made me feel comfortable. Like, he was like like Dan Wolf too. Like, they made me feel comfortable behind like what they were doing. Like, somehow they got like, they won me over. Like, I could trust them, and they didn't make me feel awkward. And like, I felt easy. You know, I felt like I could do whatever I needed to do, and it worked out. And he started making other things, and he's like, hey, I'm working on a static video. Like, I'd like, you know, you to have a part in it. And I was like, sure.
Which static was that?
I had a little section in, he's gonna kill me for this. It was static, I think it was static 3.
Okay.
And I was like, all right, let's go to the Banks. So Brooklyn Banks was my favorite spot, and we got a bunch of stuff. And then when it came out, I remember at the premiere, I didn't know what to expect, and I was like, oh, and like the video was amazing. And I was like, damn, this dude's fucking really good, you know, because just his temperament with filming, and his ability to see things, and then the relationship, we had a lot of the same things in common, and he had like I felt like he had like a genuine respect for me that I didn't feel from a lot of people. That was just like, it was like normal, but he had the appreciation, because I think he knew, like he was like a skate nerd as well, like he knew the history of like different people on the East Coast, and we just kept filming. And I felt normal just going out skating. I didn't feel pressure. And then he premiered Static 4. I think it's Static 4. Static 4-5. You know,
yeah, it was I went to the premiere of that. That was like, 3 or 4 years ago?
Yeah, maybe longer than that.
It was kind of like a hop
2014
section, like an unofficial hop section, right?
I had no idea what was going on. I was just like, I filmed a long time. I didn't know what the footy looked like. Every now and then I would see clips, but I was like, yo, oh, actually, Jerry and I were supposed to share a part. That's what it was. Because I didn't think I could do a full part. I was like, nah. And then I was like, Jerry, you want to share a part with me? Like, and Jerry was like, yeah. And that stuff fell apart there. And
so Jerry didn't come through with the footage, like filming wise, or?
We didn't make it up to Boston.
Oh, okay.
Like we had plans to go back and forth to Boston to film, and it never happened. So he was pretty bummed, and like Josh was working like a full-time, part-time gig. So
the whole video was like here in the city, right?
Yeah, because this dude was like working at Snice, like
yeah.
barista, and like he was doing all this stuff, and late at night coming out to film. So I'm like, dude, how are we gonna get up to Boston to film Jerry? Like, and then we were trying to figure out who could film up there, and it was drama. And then I was like, yo, Josh, like, I don't know what, I had ideas for music, but I was like, you know what, man, you do whatever you need to do with it, because like you got me to do all this skating that I never thought that I could do. And like,
did Theories exist at this point in time?
it was just kind of coming together. I think he had an online site that was like a blog, like a blog posting site where he would write stories and post videos and stuff like that. But it wasn't a full, he didn't have like a full operation yet. But I think it was bubbling and coming together, because I remember talking to him about how it could be done, and we were all passing around ideas on like get a warehouse in Brooklyn, or how to go about pursuing. Like,
so as he's creating Theories, it only makes sense that like you guys having this relationship that works so well together, business-wise, and you know that you bring hops over there. Or is that how it worked out? Or
our philosophies were aligned, but I was still kind of doing my own thing, and I kind of liked that I was doing my own thing. So, but the philosophies aligned, and then he was like, "Oh, I'm starting a distribution company," and he was like, I want to bring in all these companies that I feel are rad, and then I have friends that kind of run these companies, and there's not a market yet for these brands. And it was like Palace, and Vivian and Sawyer were in the beginning stages starting Magenta, and then he was like, there's this brand called Polar, and I was like, what is all this stuff? Like, because I wasn't hip to it either. And he was like, yeah, there's these obscure European brands that I think are cool, and I want to bring them to the American markets. And that was like, he just knew that he wanted to do something different and bring something to the table.
Did he have to sell you on it, or were you like into it from the beginning?
I was into it in the beginning because I liked what I had seen when he showed me those companies, and I seen what they're doing. I was into them. Yeah.
It's funny because now all those little companies, they're like some of the hottest in the game.
I know, until they killed it. Oh my gosh.
I mean, all you guys, like, you know, that whole thing, that whole conglomerate or whatever. It's cool, man.
The European brands, they were, it was rad to see, because look at all the European brands that did their thing previous and kind of didn't really they didn't kind of get the market for whatever reason was going on, timing, but like you had Blueprint and you had Flip, and and there's probably a group of other brands that I know that I can't remember right now, but they never would really get the Americans market as much, and then these guys did.
Yeah.
You know, it was time, and these guys put it down.
Yeah. Maybe all it took was somebody to like from here to just really put a spotlight on their brand. Cliche kind of did it. They kind of like did their thing over
Yeah,
there. It took a while though.
But it didn't hit the same.
Yeah.
It didn't hit the same. I think it's a lot of factors: timing, technology, like generation, people getting tired of the same stuff and wanting something new.
For sure. That whole program over there is real sick.
Yeah, they've really done some amazing things in a short period of time that we started working together more. Because it was like I was still kind of like doing a lot of stuff myself, and over the past few years we've been trying to figure out how to like what could they do to help, and what could I, what I need to focus on. And Josh has helped facilitate a bunch of things that are allowing me to dabble in other stuff now, which is important. So
I wanted to ask you how you juggling like fatherhood, running a company, being a relevant pro skater.
Compartmentalize. Yeah, it's just.
And doing art at the same time as well, because you create art. You're how do you find time to do all these things?
Like it's, I look at it kind of I try to mend them together, like creativity of, like I look at skating like art and art like skating, and then sometimes I'm able to look at business like an art as well at times. But yeah, it's been challenging. It's been like over 10 years now, and it's been by necessity and passion and drive. Like I can't really say that I figured anything out other than like just believing that things are gonna work out and keep pushing forward.
And you have a little boy?
Yeah, 2.
They skating or what?
Yeah, my little one was on the board. My son Jackson, he's been skating for a few years now.
Okay.
And then my son Guy, who's 2 years old, he was skating this afternoon. I was picking up Jackson from school, and it clicked. He was trying to kneeboard, and then I stood him up. I was like, spread your feet apart. And I pulled him around the playground a few times, and people were tripping, like, look at him. And he was in it. He got into his zone. I could see it. And he knew he figured out where his core muscles were, like, and he held the stance, and he was chilling.
Damn, that's incredible. It must be amazing to see them pick up on it and become psyched on it.
Yeah, for sure.
Sick, man. So what's next? Like, you're gonna stick around New York? Like, where do you see everything going? People always hate that question.
What's next? Yeah, I love New York. I love everything about it, and the history and the people that made skateboarding in New York rad to me. And I'm just stoked to try to be in it still and be a part of it. And who knows? I'm trying to put my artwork out more because I've never really stepped full with both feet into the art world. I always felt like I wasn't cultured enough or ready for it. Like I remember one time Ed Templeton was like, "Yo, there's a art movement going on right now. You should keep putting out work." And I didn't pay attention at the time. And then all those guys came, and Aaron Rose and Alleged Gallery and all those dudes did their thing. It was super rad. And Thomas Campbell, and like seeing all those guys doing what they did, it was pretty inspiring. And at my age now, I'm like, I don't want to take it for granted, which has always been sort of a tough thing to balance, because mom's always like, it's a gift. Don't blow it. Don't throw it. So I'm always like,
it seems like she knows what she's talking about.
Yeah. So.
Shit, man. Well, I'm proud of everything your story is amazing. I don't, we all know each other, but we don't really like know each other, you know what I mean? And just knowing like
It's not
That's a
gonna
dope
make
story.
no sense. The story. I know, in my mind, speaking about it, it makes no sense. I'm like, no, that's not how it was. That's
You're gonna
not
be
how it went.
surprised.
I didn't talk about Robbie getting Jimmy. I didn't talk about this person. I didn't talk about Ivan Perez and Ryan Hickey, and I didn't talk about Rick Iola and all these rad dudes
Hey.
who. Pep Martinez.
Rest in peace, Pep. That was Pep. Yeah.
Because I feel like I should have been talking about the whole East Coast experience, like Connecticut, Philly,
You did. You talked
Rhode
about your
Island.
experience. That's your.
But there's
East Coast
way
experience.
more details. It's way more.
Yeah.
But it's.
Didn't you have some stuff that you brought?
Oh, we almost forgot that part.
You're the first guest that came bearing gifts. Everybody else take notes. This is how a gentleman comes, you know. Oh, snap.
So I brought you something special.
What
First,
do we got here?
there's a mug for you.
This is great. I love this.
Now,
Tough stuff. What do we got here?
okay, so you're allowed to pick. You can go in for one grab. My advice would be to go deep.
Do I not look?
You can't look,
Okay.
but
So I just stick my hand in like this?
this is the skate fairy box. I'm gonna tell you what's in here afterwards, but I would say go deep and find something, and it's yours, and you can have it. I tell you, go deep, go deep. Get something good.
Can I take? I got two things in my head.
Wait.
What do I got? I got this wheel. The Land Cruisers. What is? This is a real skateboard, and I got this Nike. The skate fairy box. Look at this real. Look at this.
What is that?
Oh shit! This is the Jahmal Williams. This is a real wheel.
Nah, that's.
Nah.
You know whose company that
Race?
was? Yeah.
Dude, what size
Greg
is this?
Carroll.
Was it?
Greg Carroll put me on
Look at
race
that
wheels.
Shout out to Greg Carroll. Holy shit.
So this box is my sticker collection since I started skating. And then I inherited a sticker collection from Dan Esserbrook, the guy that worked at the skate shop. He gave me a bunch of stickers too. So this is my sticker collection, whatever little things I can find in skating, and I put them in here. And I never open it, but I thought it'd be cool to let you reach in it for a grab.
Well, look at that. I mean, I'm not gonna take your wheel, but.
No. Okay, we're bending the rules. You can go in for another grab. Go deep though. Like,
is there something in there deep?
This. Okay, I'm gonna do a random pick and see what I pick out. Just for. Let's see, what is. I'm going deep.
Let's see what we got.
Ooh, look at that one.
Ooh.
Rick
That's
Howard.
a Rick Howard right there. That's the Plan B shit right there. That shit is hard.
Actually, we could probably just pick and talk about this stuff forever.
Damn. This one is classic. I can't keep this. You gotta have that one.
Oh no, you gotta pick something. No, I want you to have something good. So that's what I'm saying.
Let me see what we get.
Whatever sticker you get, you should put it on top of the computer. Perfect.
No, you don't want that one. We're gonna edit that one.
I don't know what that is, but that's some weed
A friend
shit.
of mine made his own beer.
Look, so you gotta big him up. Shout outs to Nugmead.
Yeah, maybe stoked.
Shout outs to Nugmead.
And this stuff would get you wasted.
Send me some cases.
Come on, get something good. I want you to be stoked on something good. Should I pick something for you?
It's hard.
Oh, you had something good
I
for
did?
a second.
Shit. What's this one?
That one's kind of official. Step design.
I don't remember.
That was
I don't know
that was
this
a
one.
clothing company out of Connecticut.
Let me just pick some hot shit.
Okay. See, it's no fear. Now you're looking. Now you can dig through. Now you can dig through. Look at this. Bam, original.
Damn.
You coulda got that.
Inside the pack. What? Blind ghetto.
Is there a
kid.
price
Blind-
tag on it?
Yeah, $250.
Damn.
Dude, that shit is official right there. And then this one too.
What's that? Ooh. Ooh. I probably got doubles to that one.
I think I might have to keep this one.
For sure.
You got doubles? All right, I didn't pick it like officially, but
That's
I'm gonna
another
keep this
person.
one.
Someone do a documentary on Javante Turner, please.
This one is sick. If you got doubles, I'll keep this one.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I got doubles.
That's an ill gift right here. Look at that.
It's the classic skate sticker.
Bam.
Yeah, these were my favorite shoes, and I said I would never skate them. And
Hey, thanks for coming through.
thanks for
man.
having me,
I
man.
appreciate it. That was a good time.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.
Glad to.
Awesome. Yo, mission statement, episode 8. Jahmal Williams, we out. Peace.